Alrighty, and we're live. Welcome, Spencer. How you doing, man?
Living the goddamn dream.
But
Happy
yeah,
to be here.
good.
Love
Awesome.
this setup you got going on here.
It's a good setup. It's a good
Yeah.
setup. I appreciate it. But yeah, like we were just talking about before
We
we
were.
before we got on. Yeah, Daybreak out there on the west side of the Salt Lake Valley
Yeah.
is, in my mind, it's exactly Baldwin Park back in Central Florida. So just sections of land that are just turned into these tiny streets with these vertical homes that just they feel small looking at them.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the weird thing too is like the HOA and those things are horrible. Like every time I hear about an HOA, I want to become a domestic terrorist. Like it
No,
is
that checks.
so frustrating. No, because like that's the thing. Like imagine you work your entire life,
Uh-huh.
and you save up and you get your dream home,
And
and
now
it's in
you
a
have to.
perfect area
Mhm.
and all that stuff, and you look around and everything looks so nice, and you're like, this is home. Then you
Mhm.
get there, and then some like Brenda who doesn't have a job, who just does HOA shit, comes up to you, she's like, hey, we're a part of the HOA. And
Your lawn
actually,
is wrong.
yeah, your lawn is you have wrong grass. All right, you,
Yeah.
you need the blue, you need the crab grass or whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah.
So you have to pay $20,000 to redo your entire lawn because there's some electrical issues that are wrong too.
That-
And oh, if you don't fix this grass, even though you like the grass and there's really no issue with this grass, guess what? We're gonna put a lien on your house.
Yep.
So if you sell your house again, it goes all to the HOA. That's criminal, dude. I
Oh,
don't
hate
need a
it.
pool
No.
that badly.
No, I hate it. I even had a good HOA, like a decent HOA back in
No such
Florida.
thing. No such thing.
Well, good by HOA standards because it was only $80 a month. They took care of all of the lawn maintenance, just the basic lawn maintenance,
Just like mowing.
just mowing, edging, and blowing or whatnot. And you could tell them, you fucking child.
Dude, I'm 22. Of course I am.
But-
Don't let the low
but they
voice
were-
and tallness and weird fake
Yeah.
confidence, fool you, my friend.
Appreciate the drop in.
Of course.
But in any case, the HOA was chill. I was friendly with the president and everything.
Yeah.
But I would get letters every 6 months, like, because it's Florida, so like pressure washing your driveway once a year is like a necessity because of like the relative mold buildup or sediment
Yeah, the
from all the
mildew.
rain,
and-
pulling for weeds or whatnot. Like it is a pain in the ass. The worst sort of thing I realized was when we needed to repaint the outside of the house
Yeah.
because it had just had parts of paint that were just peeling off.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was just
yeah,
there,
it's-
or it was getting yellow because the sun had just because my mom
Oh,
had
yeah,
paint-
sunburn or whatever it's called.
Well,
Sun fading.
sun fading, yeah, because the color my mom had put on it was like this darker green, and I think I continued her tradition of not going by the HOA color palette, because they actually have like these are the only colors you're allowed to paint your house.
That's stupid. Like you
Oh, I hate it.
spend millions of dollars on your dream home, because and then all of a sudden you can't even make it the color that you want because Brenda says no. Fuck
Yeah.
Brenda.
Fuck
Holy
Brenda,
shit.
Well, what I loved is that we picked out like this pelican gray,
Yeah, Pelican
and
Gray.
I got the impression it was like this other house, like okay, and it's more of a blue.
Mm.
Looks much more of a blue, and what I loved is that like I over like the space of like a month, just every Saturday, just taping a bit or painting a bit, or my dad finally got me like let me
Yeah.
borrow his sprayer. We got it done, and the president, I'm gonna call him Howie right now because I can't remember, but he came up to me like, "That's on the palette." I'm like, "Yes, it's on the palette." I was like, people don't like that, but I like what you've done with the place. like he
Dude,
knew,
Dude,
he knew of the
imagine.
busybodies that were gonna bitch about it, but he's like, "No, it's on the palette."
That's
like,
the thing,
fuck
the
off.
busybodies. I can't do the suburbs because everyone's in everyone's business. Like,
Oh, wait.
I stayed at my parents' place for like a week,
Mm-hmm.
just because I was like, the new place wasn't ready yet,
Right.
and so like I'm staying there, and like they're just sitting on the porch, just
Mhm.
talking with the dogs, and I'm like, okay, this is very boring, but like it's nice to see nature and whatnot, and they just had. Just so many people come by, talk for 5 minutes, giving the scoop on everyone.
Yeah.
And then they would move on, and then the next people would come 5 minutes
Just
later,
gossip
giving this,
on
and it's
gossip.
just gossip and gossip. I don't want people to know where I live. I don't want people to like talk to me. Like I don't want to know what Brenda in the next house. So I don't know why I keep using Brenda, but
Brenda's getting a lot of shade
Yeah, okay,
thrown
well,
at her. This Karen, you can just go super.
I
Karen.
don't want to do Karen
Okay,
because
do
that's too
Kelly.
cliche.
Do
Kelly.
Yeah, we
Um,
don't know what Kelly.
yeah, we
is.
could do a Kelly.
Yeah.
I mean, my aunt's name's Kelly. She's cool. I like her.
She's good for a joke though.
Yeah, she okay. Well,
Yeah.
Kelly, if you're
she,
listening
she
to
knows
this,
we're not talking about her.
yeah, of course. But yeah, no, Kelly's in the next door over and like just like getting into my business. No, I don't want that. I don't want to know my neighbors' names. I don't want any of that. I just want a little fortress of solitude
That,
just to
that
vibe
John
in.
that John Goodman speech or whatnot. Have you heard of that one?
Oh yeah, which
Yeah,
is
that's
like
it.
you put eight,
For 1 million, you get your fortress of solitude. It's
yeah, you get a piece of shit point A to point B car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what my tag on to that like HOA sucks and suburbia like that sucks is that
Out of
I
tag.
believe that retirement is a trap that just turns. I've had too many stories where someone that's like even renovating their house,
Mm-hmm.
the recently retired couple next door they had no problems with for 15 years. Now that they're retired, have nothing to do, and now they start bothering everyone
Oh,
else.
absolutely. It's just like you have a purpose for so long. You're like, okay, well, I am middle management, got
Mm-hmm.
the corner office, and you
Well,
work your
yeah.
entire life, and then you like hit 60 or 65, and you're like, oh, well, I guess I could pick up golfing,
You
or
could, or you could just bother your neighbors about their weeding.
well,
Like,
that's the thing. Golfing can only take you so far, and you need to find that like purpose,
mm-hmm.
and when you don't have that purpose, that's when you become a fuck. Like all the people,
So
like
eloquently
behind
put,
every
Spencer.
Karen was a 20-year-old girl that wanted to be a lawyer,
Right.
that had
Behind every
dreams.
Kelly is a Michelle Obama. Like,
Absolutely.
grow up
Like
and be
all of them
something.
wanted to do more, but then they got married too early. And then, they stayed at home or they did continue to work, but then they felt guilty because they weren't around all the kids. And then they just got so angry and they were attractive for most of their life. And now they're not because they lost their pretty privilege. And there's just like, why aren't people bending over for me anymore? And then just the little things just slowly destroy their psyche until they verbally abuse their kids and then create the next generation of Karens.
Just sounds like they sound like narcissists by life choices.
Absolutely.
Like
Oh,
they
absolutely.
just fall. They
Everyone's a
become one.
narcissist, just no one wants to admit it.
Oh yeah, it's just to what extent are you a narcissist?
I think it's how much you let it take over. So I
Right.
feel like, because we even see this like in the scene is like sometimes there's going to be someone that has like a wave of momentum where all of a
Yeah,
sudden
they
they're
have a-
getting
they have
a
a
shit
good-
ton of spots. They're doing well.
Yeah.
Their act has gotten great. There's sometimes they let that get to their head a lot.
Mhm.
And then they start big timing everyone, and then it's just like, okay, I don't want to really be around you anymore.
Yeah.
And then it starts to like slow down again because the
then
momentum
they
is
come
going to
back.
keys. And then they're like, hey guys, what's up? And we're like, okay, yeah,
Welcome back.
Cool.
Welcome back to Earth.
yeah,
Like,
thank you. It's great to see you. Happy you're back. But definitely not everyone does that. But yeah, there's been a few where you're just like, okay, come on, dude, we're still open micers in Salt Lake City, Utah.
yeah. And
Like, There's only so much renown you
this
can
is,
get.
this is tier 3 in terms of scenes for like comedy. You would
I
think.
would say I would give it a 2.
Yeah. Well,
Like
I'm
I
not,
will
I
say
have no
like
reason to argue with it. I just have the sense of like Austin, LA, and New York would be like tier 1s in my mind,
yeah.
just because those are like where there's like hard scenes. No, and
Well,
then
that's
because
the
and
place
then
with the
Las
most
Vegas-
opportunity for
Las
sure.
Vegas in my mind would be the tier 2 because it's bigger than
Absolutely
Salt Lake.
not. No.
Really?
Absolutely not, dude. I've done shows in Vegas, and don't get me wrong, the shows can be fun, but the scene isn't. It's very disjointed from
Compared
what I've
to
seen.
because so in your mind the Salt Lake scene is much more cohesive and at least on.
I
Like,
think it's more
everyone's on the same page.
cohesive, and I think just since there's limited opportunities, which
Yeah.
is essentially you have to go through Wise Guys or start a bar show at the
Yeah.
Ha Ha, like it's at
Yeah.
Big Willie's or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. The ceiling is it's harder to break through that ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's only a limited number amount of spots that you can get at Wise Guys, but it means that every comic needs to be fucking awesome just to get a weekend spot.
Yeah.
I mean, every once in a while you'll see
Well-
someone that you're like, wait, they got on?
Well,
but
th-
like
that-
for the
that's
most
what-
part, like everyone in Salt Lake's pretty solid. Like I feel like the ratio between funny comics and unfunny comics is really good in Salt Lake.
I would actually want to agree with that because I obviously came from the Orlando scene, or at least like, very little of the Orlando scene. I went to a few open mics, but
yeah.
I'm aware of like two things about like Orlando and Florida culture. One, it's a transitory state. A lot of people that either grow up there want to leave it
Mm-hmm.
because it's been boring most of their life,
Yeah.
and a lot of other people that are basically there for college, like UCF, USF, Miami, or whatnot. They're there just for college, and then they're going back home or they're
Yep.
going somewhere else. And so when there's sort of that stigma around like Florida that it's like where comedy goes to die, I'm also aware that I'm going back and doing an uphill thing. But the lack of cohesiveness or community that at least I could spot while I was there, and the spread of talent, because that's what I really liked about the Salt Lake scene when I first got here, was just like kind of looking around.
Yeah.
And it's like, December 2021 maybe or something like that.
Wait, you've been doing comedy that long?
No,
Okay.
it's more of I was off and on like once every few months because
Okay.
I had a mental block.
I mean, yeah, it
and-
happens to the best of us.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I've gone through my own.
Yeah. So I couldn't even like really say I really got started until about 2 months ago when around you and I like met.
Yeah.
That's when I figured out my mental block of needing to just socialize like we were doing last night.
Yeah.
And then
No, the hang is honestly the most important. I feel like, well, not the most important, but
Yeah.
it's very nice.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite aspects of the
But
comedy.
my thing when I went to like a Wednesday night for like just kind of an open mic showcase is kind of what Wednesday night at Wise Guys here in Salt Lake is. The
Used
amount
to
of
be, for sure.
yeah, the Rickles Room is now the new showcase. Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I don't think they're even doing Sunday specials anymore. I think everything's going through the Rickles Room. It's a fun room. I haven't
been in it yet, but
You haven't even been in it?
not yet.
You gotta
but
check it out,
The
dude.
only point I want to finish off before we
Okay,
jump
sorry.
elsewhere was just like the amount of good comics on like a sign up open mic on a Wednesday. I was like, this is actually remarkably good and even better than what I was getting at the Improv at Orlando, at the other bar,
Mm-hmm.
like the few open mics that I was able to track down.
No, honestly, Wise Guys is one of the best clubs
Mhm.
in honestly the world at this point. Like
Mm-hmm.
there, if you listen to a lot of other comics talk about Wise Guys, it is pretty rare that you hear anything somewhat negative.
No, Tony was
Like-
saying that like on one of the recent episodes of Kill Tony about
Yeah.
like Wise Guys.
Oh yeah, during Scott's set.
Yeah, Scott's.
that was a
humor.
fucking
Are you? I'm a
hilarious
little
show.
disappointed. Like I'm obvious. Scott doesn't even know I exist really, but
Yeah,
as a fan of him for like the past 2 years.
oh, that's cool.
Because I saw him and Sam D'Antano like at the same time with.
Oh yeah, you saw
kind of like-
their
they're kinda like-
TikTok thing.
Their TikTok stuff, their Instagram stuff, but also just kind of realizing that like Scott was friends with Sam, and Scott was also friends with. I keep forgetting the other guy's name, who has a wife and kid now.
There's a lot of comics.
I
that
know,
have
it's
settled
not
down.
helping.
Gabe?
Gabe, yeah, Gabe Olson.
Oh, I don't think they're not married.
Oh, with his baby mama or whatnot.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, with his girlfriend.
But in any case, regardless of all that, but I remember just seeing that trio and then seeing Scott make it all the way to Austin. I was like, I'm the one. I don't know who else is. I was like, I
Dude,
expected
that was a crazy wave. He's hilarious.
Scott or
But yeah, no, Scott. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, all three of them. Gabe's really fucking hilarious, and Sam D'Antano is one of the smartest comics that I know.
yeah,
He is one of my favorites to watch. He was actually the first comic I ever met.
nice.
So I was at the coffee shop in Riverton,
Mm-hmm.
and they did an open mic there.
Yeah.
and it was really popular, like packed.
Nice.
And Sam and Nicholas Don Smith go up, and I had never done comedy. The only comedy that I've even seen live is like Brian Regan, because I'm a Mormon guy.
yeah.
And I remember like seeing Sam, and he had a funny set, and then Nicholas Don Smith went up and had a really funny set. So I was already seeing like pretty high quality comedy,
Yeah.
but like it wasn't necessarily the room for it. Like
Yeah.
that was a really rough mic for comedy. They didn't like him.
Mhm.
But I remember going outside, and Sam D'Antano smoking his cigarette. And I was like, "Hey man, I want to start doing comedy. Like, I think this would be really cool.
Mhm.
And like, is there any other open mics
What
that I
I
could
love
go
is
to?"
that there's some sort of like, hey Sam, hey, like that high pitched little kid.
Oh
thing.
yeah, of course. I
But
mean, my
was your-
balls,
Was your voice like this deep at the same time? Like, hey man,
My-
I'm really into
my balls dropped when I was 12. Like I've sounded like I smoke a pack a day for my entire life.
Yeah.
Now I may smoke a pack a day, but we don't need to talk about that.
So you went up to Sam, you're like, hey, I want to get.
Yeah, I was like, hey, I like kind of want to get into comedy, and I was the reason I had the higher pitch because I was just so naive, and I was just
no, that's
just like I had dreams, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
boy, I'm gonna do comedy,
Dream,
and it's gonna
optimism.
it's gonna be incredible, and it is. It's been very kind to me. I'm very happy with where I've gone, but I was asking him all these things, and like it was very clear that I was really excited to talk to him.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he just takes a big long drag, like a 5-second drag from a cigarette. He's like, "Listen, kid." And it was just see that Sam D'Antano.
I have a
Oh
hard
my
rip
God.
and then
Yeah.
rip into you.
Listen, kid, this is what it's like. And it was very like just like angry detective in New York in
Uh-huh.
the 80s. You know, this like grizzled that needs his last case. And this guy's like 22.
Yeah.
You know, at the time, it was essentially, well, that's
Did
how
you
old
take it
I
for
am
some
now.
30? Because it sounds like it's a bit. It sounds like it was.
No, this genuinely happened. Like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and like Nicholas was like nearby as well. But no, this isn't a bit. This is just a
Sam's
story.
pulling out the cynicism just out the gate for you.
Yeah, he was very bohemian and very cynical back then.
Uh-huh.
He's turned more into the golden retriever now. Since
Energy.
energy since I've seen him, and I love that man's vibe. He looks like the Atlantis character.
Yes, Milo
Dude.
Thatch. Yeah.
Can get it, honestly.
Oh no, he's like
He's a very handsome individual.
he's if I was because while I was at the open mic last night, I just think of things and write them down as. Please don't tell me that broke.
No.
Thank God. We just got those as gifts from our bartender at Texas Roadhouse
My
last
bad.
Thursday. No,
Wait,
I
what?
did. I was
At
in the same
Texas
thing.
Roadhouse?
Yeah, we've gone there for like probably a year
So
straight.
you're regulars at the Texas Roadhouse?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What? Well, okay.
It's a good
Why?
time. Our bartender Janae is fantastic.
Okay, so you go for the vibe. I just like just being a regular at Texas Roadhouse. That's like being a regular at Chili's.
Agreed. You could. The thing is that
Yeah.
like, wife loves the buns.
Good buns.
Bread.
We love the buns.
Speak of the
The
devil.
buns are good.
Wife loves the bread and
Love
the honey
bread.
butter, and they do pretty okay for steaks. And I like
Yeah.
the green beans.
Yeah. It's weird that you walk in and you just see a bunch of animal carcasses and you're just like, all right, this is the type of vibe that we're going
Have you
for.
actually been in a hunting cabin where someone has like their trophies all over the wall or anything?
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's
it.
actually interesting, but they're fake ones at Texas Roadhouse. Just
Are
not your
there?
vibe.
Yeah, it's not the vibe. I appreciate. This sounds so fucking pretentious, but like the authenticity. Like I hate
Of
the
someone that actually hunted and taxidermied.
You know, it's just weird. Like when you're in like Utah and something is very clearly meant to look like a chicken
It's
shack
meant
in
to look like
Louisiana.
it's meant to look like a thing. It's not the actual thing.
Absolutely, yeah. Like there's an African spot, and I think it's called like Zulu something.
Mm-hmm.
But me and my friend were like, yeah, let's get food. We're tired of getting pizza all the time, so like let's look up like just like a random cuisine.
Yeah.
And so we happen upon this place, and we walk in, and it was legitimately like it felt like we were in Vessel Kitchen,
Right.
or like just like a weird Chipotle type situation.
Okay.
And they had burgers on the menu, they had
Nice.
chicken sandwiches on the menu,
Nice.
and like one genuine African dish. And I'm like, this is not what we were expecting by
No,
any stretch.
it's very American.
And then they had like the African music going, and I'm just like, this feels so wrong on so many
Did it
levels.
actually have like Africans, like like African immigrants, like working there? or
Whitest people I've ever met in my
Son
life.
of a bitch.
Whitest people I've ever met. Yeah, no, like just Sandy was working there, Jessica. But no, then I look over and it was just a story about like how this guy went on a mission to Africa, and he was like, I fell in love with the cuisine,
And
so
he
I
came
wanted
back
to
and
bring
brought
it
one
back.
dish.
And I'm like, oh my god,
He
this
came back
is
with
it's
one
modern day colonialism.
Well, it's modern day trying to pull something over, but not being able to capture the full spirit of it.
Well, I'm talking about in terms of like pure missionaries.
Yeah.
Missionaries is just modern day colonialism. But yeah, no, it is. It's just like, let me take the one thing that I like about your very nuanced and
Yeah.
deep, rich culture, and then try to sell chicken tenders.
I don't think it's actually true, but some part of me like thinks or believes that, like, because I've seen like one little clip where like this white boy just eats like a South African, where he just eats like whipping dip with his fingers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's like a part of South African cuisine. I'm just like, yeah, you have to explain it to anyone that's not from there and how like what kind of finger food this is, because like we're used to finger foods like with wings or chicken tenders, fries or whatnot. Burgers are a finger food technically because you're not using a utensil. But if you're gonna bring back like any
utensils.
South African or an African dish and they ate like the way that kid sort of elicits. They're just not prepared to like dip something
Yeah,
here
I'm
and
just
dip something
imagining
here.
like
Unless it's
going
chip,
to
they
a
need it.
restaurant and you have to like watch an instructional video on how to eat it. To where,
mean,
like before you get your food, you have to
I
like
think if
scan
they
the
actually put
QR
the
code
instructions on the napkins.
on the napkins.
Yeah, if they had the instructions on the napkins, like a little Pictionary, a little book. Like,
Yeah, let's play Hangman, and if you
two
guess it
fingers in
correctly,
this dip,
you
two
can eat
fingers
the
in this
food.
dip, and then in your mouth.
Nice.
I mean, we already do. They already have instructions on the chopstick paper that's holding the chopsticks at Asian restaurants. Like, we're already there.
Yeah, that's true. I
Like-
could see that. I
like,
just,
If you want to have people to like take on your culture, it does have to
Yeah.
come with lessons.
dude, I love that Gaffigan bit where he's just like, it's annoying when they just give the chopsticks and they don't give the fork, because you
It's
just have to like
well,
ask,
you know
hey,
how white I am.
I'm too white. Sorry.
Could you please bring me?
I remember I said that to a Panda Express worker when I was 12 years old, because I just listened to that bit. So
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I was just trying to like,
Beyond the Pale was goated as
it
well.
was
right?
that was a great special.
Yeah.
Really fucking funny guy. He's one of those guys where I'm just like, yeah, I don't think you need to be dirty. Like, there's some comics that are clean, that are like genuinely,
no, he
they
murders
write
like that.
clean,
Yeah.
they are clean. Like, they could say fuck here and there, but it's not like
It's not.
they are changing the way that they see comedy
No.
to be clean, which I appreciate that. It's so heartbreaking to see like some comics that have some like just like darker or edgier tones, and like they're not that type of person trying to do clean.
Like, you're talking more open micers? Or?
Yeah, open micers.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one that's like a clean like basically all well-known and famous clean comics,
Mhm.
they've always been clean and they've always wanted to be clean, and they write clean. Like they're just that type of person.
Yeah.
But like it's just sad. Like imagine like if Nick Lucero was just like, yo, I'm gonna be a clean comic now.
Mhm.
Like that's just not Nick
No, it's
Lucero.
not. It's,
yeah.
no, it's him and Chuck Go Clean for a night. We're all checking to see if they're like an alien and has taken over their body or something. You know.
Dude, Chuck's actually doing pretty well with clean because I don't know.
Well,
It kind of depends on what
in
you're
my
talking
mind,
about.
Chuck,
Clean.
Chuck just has good bits, good comedy. It's just, and he doesn't need the curse words to force the laugh. Like that's some of the things that you see in early open mics or early open micers.
Yeah.
Is that they just feel the need to like talk about like sexual stuff or make dick jokes or say fuck way too often or way too much or try to drop
Yeah,
hard
they also
words.
like.
And they're just not trying to like be funny or even just be genuine on the mic. You know?
Well, that's honestly the hardest part, like learning how to be genuine on
Yeah.
stage and authentic. Because like honestly, I'm not even there yet, but like it's getting there, and I feel like
Yeah.
it's gonna take a while to get there for a lot of people, unless if they've been on stage their entire life doing this.
Yeah.
You know.
That's actually where like I'm thinking back to like what my very beginner energy is for being on stage and how in control I feel versus like seeing you doing more hosting, like you host the Alliance Theater here in Salt Lake and
Yeah.
so on.
It's a fun show.
And on Monday nights for everyone.
7:30.
Easy plug.
Easy plug.
Free parking.
Yeah, dude. Don't get me fucking started on that, Mike. That's gonna take up the entire podcast if we
No,
start talking about that.
But then I see like I think it was Andre Herrera was one of the last two comics last night at the Shades Brewing open mic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and him just being on there and just fucking with David, like Andre's ability to like hold that room at least last night, and I've seen it at Wise Guys. He just is perfectly comfortable up on stage.
Yeah. No,
And
Andreas has been killing it recently.
Good.
Yeah, no,
I've seen too many
got
of his
a
open
style.
mics just bomb, so I haven't seen any of his good stuff at like a show or anything. So, like,
Be careful what you say on this shit. But yeah, I respect the hell out of Andreas because he goes into those like he doesn't discriminate on mics. I feel like he'll go to the Alliance, he'll go to the greenhouses. He hasn't gone to the greenhouses for a bit, but like he'll go to those like weirder open mics, or at least he used to. And just to try it out with different rooms, because there's so many people that like just do Wise Guys, and so they get to the Wise Guys crowd, and then they go to a place like Greenhouse or Alliance, and it's a very different.
And
scene.
they're not flexible enough to pull the same bit.
Yeah,
and,
well,
and
it's just like
modify
when
it.
you go into a comedy club, you're just like, oh yeah, this is where funny people are. I
Yeah.
will probably laugh.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here. There's going to be alcohol involved. It is a situation that is primed for comedy.
Yeah,
you know?
more forgiving, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. But then when you go to like Greenhouse or Alliance, it's like they're not there to see comedy. They're there to perform, or they're there because they really like the people, or they want to watch the
Or
other
they're
people
there for
perform.
art, you know.
Yeah, and they're here for local art and kind of all us
human-
experiencing,
People
you know,
being intimate and
absolutely.
putting their souls out, even if the music's bad. Like they're there for people to try to do their best and be genuine with their art. Like,
it's like,
good, bad, or
hey,
ugly is
here's a
all
piece of my soul.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just a very honest experience.
Yeah.
And when comedy comes into that, there's a certain amount of lying that you're doing on stage and a certain amount of embellishment. Now, granted, musicians do the same thing, but sometimes, like, if you're not completely genuine, that crowd is not going to be there for it.
Yeah.
And, like, they want to laugh, but they're not going to do the pity laugh. They're not that type of audience, which I love. I love so much.
Well, if anything, it feels like they have a higher demand on you as a performer. It's almost like, okay, like stand-up is an art form, but you better deliver this, like right here, right now.
Yeah, take it as seriously as we're taking what we're doing.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the fact just it's a very similar audience every single night. Like we probably get 50% regulars, then 50% people that are just coming in for their first time, or come every once in a while.
At Alliance, or
at Alliance, yeah. So like, if you're not like writing new stuff too, like it's not going to go over well, because the second time you hear a punchline, it is usually not as funny, unless if like it is just masterfully done and you're just watching it because you love the performance,
like you found
not necessarily
that version
the joke.
of the bit that actually sends it into the stratosphere.
Absolutely. Like Steve Martin has a lot of those where like I'll listen to his albums and I'll laugh every single time still. And I've heard the a million times. I love the I love his bit. I can't remember what album it's on, but it's just like someone's just like, "I love you." He's like, "Let's screw then," and he's like, "Motherfucker," and it was just so funny because like he just like goes like screw, says the most vanilla thing, and it's very just like naive that he's just like, "Motherfucker." It's I cry
gear
laughing.
shift,
Yeah,
that switch is so powerful.
it's so fucking great. Yeah.
No, I was rewatching the end of the Cell Saga for Dragon Ball Z Abridged, if you know what that is.
Dragon Ball. I know what Dragon Ball Z is. I'm not a huge anime guy.
You're good.
I've tried to. I don't have enough time to get into it. I know I would probably like it, and I've heard good things. It's weird when a 12-year-old has massive tits.
I can get behind that. How weird that is.
Okay, I'm glad you saved that. I'm glad you saved that because we almost just got taken off YouTube, my guy.
Shoemaker about to kick in my door.
Welcome. You're on the Newlyped game. Answer 3 out of 5 questions correctly, and you won't go to jail. We could call the cops on him every time. Yeah, dude, I helped him film one of those, and that was crazy.
I bet.
That was.
That's.
I don't regret going at all, but
it's an experience, I imagine.
It's a core memory at this point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because that night we filmed 2 videos, and we also got kicked out of the Bewilder open mic. And they did that on Tuesday after Wise Guys, before Oh Shucks was a thing.
Right.
And this one comic, I won't name him, although we probably know who we're talking about, just got super fucking drunk and then just had a great time. And like they put the microphone into the speaker and they were just belligerent, having a grand old time. Then they go into the employee only section, tried to jump off, to get into the parking lot. Because it's essentially like an old loading dock.
Right.
Because that's what a brewery is nowadays. It's just like an old industrial space being like, hey, we're hip and cool.
Yeah.
Like that's essentially what it is at this point. Except with more man buns involved. But yeah, that was a fun time. So we go there, we get kicked out and banned, and then we go back and film another video. And I'm like, we are degenerates. We are the worst of the worst in the best way possible.
Work, man. You're
honestly, yeah. I mean, guy died because of it, so we're all good. Did you hear about that?
Count that as a win? Or?
Yeah, no, it's. I'm not gonna get a teardrop.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna get a teardrop tattoo on my asshole by any stretch, but.
Would you need to stretch it just so it doesn't actually wrinkle on itself, or does it?
Yeah, I kind of like the wrinkling though, because then if you fart, it kind of looks like it's exploding a little bit.
It's in the bonus footage of this interview with this pedo.
Yeah, this is the shit that we cut out.
Where were we at before the Colin? It's Colin Shoemaker. What's his first name again?
Schumacher. Yeah.
Schumacher. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I get names wrong so much. Like it's just with Alliance, just like talking to a lot of people all night and like having good conversations where like I'm enjoying it, but I don't remember names until I've met you for 3 people. I feel bad about it. Well, like there are people that
I loved last night where like we saw each other, and I think because of like this podcast, you're like, I need to remember his name. I knew your name.
I knew your name.
Like, Mr. Solomon. I was like, he's got the last name down.
Mr. Solomon. No, sometimes I like to
feel
sometimes I like to feel like an old oil prospector,
right?
Like with the way I talk. So like, Mr. Solomon, great to see you.
Yes, no,
like an old like New Atlantic accents.
I
love a good Gatsby every once in a while.
I had a guy that basically like canceled for a recording, and there's a whole group of people, so I had to send out like the group chat, like, but it says like Derek is with a scheduling conflict or something like that. Like he is with a scheduling conflict. I don't know what part of English or what decade that is, but it's like he is with child or he is with a scheduling conflict. That's how I wrote it. That's
funny.
I was like,
it's crazy. I just changed a few words and all.
It just makes me happy that these guys I work with for the 3DMs D&D improv show that I run are just very
that's cool.
Yeah, that they're prepared for like my weird ways of talking.
That's why I was confused when you asked me on your podcast, because like we don't know each other all that well. Like we've had a few conversations, which I'm, and it's always been an enjoyable one by any stretch.
Yeah, good.
But I appreciate you asking me.
Oh yeah, well that's where like to I guess explain it so you're very clear of it. The Jailhouse Parlor podcast, which is what we're on right now, is my original one-on-one, like my Joe Rogan that everyone like tries to do.
Where's your Jamie? We need a Jamie.
She's in the next room. She just doesn't want to learn any of this shit.
Pull that up. All right, we might get a text in 20 minutes with a link that's not correct.
She'd call me a gaslighter or whatever. Like that's actually I forget if it was her, but like my wife and our friends online. Whenever I sneeze, they just say gaslighter. I don't get bless yous. I don't get Gesundheit. I just get called a gaslighter.
Hey, you're a white man. Got to get it together.
Got to even out the balance.
Feel worse about yourself.
Yeah. But yeah, the other things that I do is just D&D campaigns, and then because I loved improv, I did a few classes of improv back in Orlando.
Oh yeah?
I
used to teach it actually.
Nice. I wanted to figure out a way to do, or I always thought about figuring out how to get like D&D on a stage and have it well dramatized, even though because it's so slow paced with like the dice rolls and everything. I was like, how do you speed that up? And what I think I found, because I finally realized like I could do it online, and it's doable.
Yeah.
But the simple premise for 3DMs and a Tale is that I've gathered a bunch of dungeon masters, so people with experience that
Yeah.
can either help tell the story or just be a player. A D4, a four-sided die, decides who of the four are going to be the head dungeon master for the story that we're going to do on the day. And usually we have like 2-hour recording sessions.
Yeah.
And then they have to provide a genre and a theme and start opening the world and providing details for the world or the environment, if it's fantasy, if it's sci-fi or whatnot. And then they start calling in the 3, and I'm a player usually right now. They start calling in the players to introduce their characters and start providing like motivations, descriptions, and things like that. So we are pretty deep into season 2 right now, but it has been incredibly fun.
That's honestly cool. I mean, have you ever been to the Mark of the Bistro?
No, but I know
Beehive?
Nami has shows down there.
Yeah,
There's
they
shows
do
coming down
improv.
there.
They do improv every Saturday from 2 to 4.
Mhm.
Well, the reason I tell that is Aaron Orlovitz, who's a comic. I don't know if you've met him.
No.
And Nicholas Don Smith.
Okay.
And they're guys that have been in the scene for a while. They're not as present as they used to be, but they used
Are
to
they
actually
in the improv
host
scene and then the comedy scene?
comedy.
Or-
They're stand-up comics. Nicholas Don Smith is one of the funniest motherfuckers I've ever seen. Like,
Right.
he is great.
Nice.
And Aaron Orlovitz, he has just like the slow cadence. He essentially talks like himself
Kinda
how he normally does. But
Juan, kind of like how Juan or Josh are, basically. Juan's the guy's actual name. The long-haired Mexican guy. He had the jazz hat on last night.
oh yeah.
Because him and Josh are very slow cadence personalities, and it just provides this like either goofy dryness to Juan stuff,
Yeah.
or just this awkward, like interesting tension that Josh provides with his comedy.
Yeah, it's almost like an awkward. You're just like, what's going on?
What's about to happen?
Yeah.
It's Zach Galifianakis' kind of like
Yeah, kind of.
without a piano.
Honestly, he posted he told a joke last night on he posted it on Facebook or Twitter or one of those things, and it pissed me off so much that I just comment Joshua. I just did that. I was like, bro, what are you doing? Like, I feel like his jokes are great.
About the post.
The thing is, it's just okay. So it's kind of like puns or like the wordplay thing. I feel like with those types of jokes, if you get angry, that's a good sign that it was a good pun.
Yeah.
It was a good sign of those like types of wordplay jokes.
Yes.
So like it was a
a
sign of respect.
You had your
Yeah.
fake anger ready. You're just ready to full
Just
name
like,
him. Just
yeah.
Joshua Bartholomew Kravitz III.
Yeah,
What are you
I
doing?
felt like a dad getting mad at his son. He's just like, stop it. Like, yeah, that was me trying to show a sign of respect. Like,
Oh,
hey,
yeah, no.
that was a great job, but also at the same time, fuck
I hate
you.
your guts.
Yeah, like
That's me and my wife's relationship because she loves punny shit.
Yep.
She's got the person that's like, yeah, I got up this morning and I'm doing a new exercise routine. So this morning I did diddly squats. She is that she can go on a pun roll and she'll make you kill yourself by the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure if I was dating a girl and all of a sudden she just started like punning it up, I think that would be a big enough red flag where I just couldn't do it. Like I love a good pun every now and again, but like they do genuinely.
It's like
piss me off.
I need you to 9/11 my brain once a year only. It's
9/11 your brain. That's a take you had
when
for
someone's
sure.
delivering, especially when they mean a pun, they are just going in to be reprimanded. They're there for self-destruction.
Yeah.
Mutually
Oh
assured.
yeah, okay,
destruction
I can
thing.
see that.
You know what I'm saying? No one delivers a pun on
Yeah, a
purpose.
pun
It
is a suicide. It's a suicide bomber.
Oh yeah. Just
Just like fuck you guys.
insert pun.
I don't know.
Insert play on fucking words.
Oh
man.
my god.
Oh god. But yeah, that's the easy explanation I've got for you. So if,
Yeah, well, they used to actually. The reason why I was talking about like Aaron Orlovitz.
Yeah. I bet I'd recognize him because
I'm sure you
I've
would.
got to have at least seen most of the comics at least once at this point.
You've probably seen Nicholas Don. Aaron doesn't come around as much. He's just been busy. But
Mhm.
I think he's gonna start coming back pretty soon. But
I'm trying to remember this guy who always looked like a big trucker, Ash Ketchum, and he has a trucking company I think here in town. That's one of the
I have no idea. I
yeah.
have no idea. That's the thing. Like I feel bad because I don't remember people. Like
Yeah.
I was at Kilby Court for a show that my buddy was producing,
Mm-hmm.
and there was this person, and there was just like this girl, and she was really nice, and I
Mhm.
was just like, oh, well, this person is surprisingly nice for someone that I just barely met.
Yeah.
She's like, it's good to see you. I'm like, oh, thank you, you too. And like, she was like, do you want to go for a walk? And I'm like, yeah, of course, let's go for a walk.
Yeah.
And so we're smoking, we're having a good time, and she's like, well, I was just thinking about our conversation the other day, and I'm like, oh shit, this is a person that I've had like
This is my second
conversations
interaction
with.
this person.
Yeah,
at
this
least.
this could be the second. It could also be the fourth. Like I don't know, and so like slowly but surely, I'm kind of trying to like pick out, like just trying to like reactivate the conversation, and then like I still don't remember their name. And granted, like I feel like I could play it off well just because it happens so often. Like
You have enough charisma muscles for social situations
charisma muscles,
to like to play it out.
more just bullshit. Like I wouldn't even say that's charisma. That's just like
the
just
difference between bravery and like getting over your fear is just like, what is it? There's a line where it's like pretending to be brave and being brave are the same thing.
yeah, the whole fake it till you make it type
Yeah,
bullshit.
yeah. You know.
Yeah, no, I think it's.
Also, how'd you like that?
It was honestly pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Yeah, no, I didn't taste any of the booze. Well, granted, it was schnapps or
It was a liqueur, yeah. So it's gonna be,
liqueur.
like low percentage high
and
sugar.
I'd see. Oh, great. Love a good hangover. Love a good
Hey, you're getting
hangover.
hair of the dog right now. If you think
Oh,
about
yeah, that's true. That's true. We're slowly. Yeah, I always feel bad. Every time I do a podcast, I'm either hungover or high or just feel like shit.
it. I haven't felt like you've been lacking today, so
Well, I appreciate that.
yeah.
I do.
the coin toss went
Yeah.
well today.
Yeah, no, I feel like I'm just constantly doing the feeling like shit. I don't know. I'm a hypochondriac. I feel like a lot of comics are hypochondriacs just because they're afraid that their bad habits are going to catch up to them because we
Right.
all have them.
Yeah.
Like and so yeah, like I moved in with Aaron Orlovitz, the guy I was
Okay,
talking about.
yeah.
Oh, what I was gonna say about this, see, fucking ADHD. They used to do a show at Mark of the Bistro where
yeah,
they
the
would
improv
do
spot, yeah.
they would well, it was improv, but it was also it was stand up and then D&D. So
They
all
do
the
a live
comics,
D&D show or
yeah, then
something
they
like
do
that?
a live D&D show for the last like hour. So the first half hour is comedy, and then all the comics go and play D&D on stage. Yeah, they used to do it a couple years ago. So like it's possible. That's what I was trying to point out to you.
I actually almost want to talk to him because we're packing to like move, but part of me is like I could if they have the like I have local guys that have been local cast members that are recruited from down at the We Geek Tavern, the We Geek Together tavern down in the
The
town
what?
center mall. The
The
We
We
Geek
Geek?
Together Tavern down in the Provo Town Center.
How does it smell in there?
Oh, it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Use the
Perfectly fine
deodorant.
now.
Use
Yeah.
the deodorant. Okay, just making
Yeah, no,
sure.
it's
I
good.
went into a trading card store a couple days ago, and it just was BO, and I'm like, this
No,
is
Andrew and his brother, and them, they keep it pretty tight and clean. They have
That's
they
good.
have a really
got to
awesome
keep the
setup down there.
hygiene up. Yeah, I mean those. I can't imagine what it smells like in those Japanese internet cafes because
Oh, it
there's
could get
people that
bad.
fucking sleep there.
Oh, it could get bad. It
Yeah,
could
no,
get
I'm
bad.
sure.
But yeah, no. Now I'm just like, I might want to have you introduce me to Aaron Orlovitz because if I could get like one live show attempt with my local
Dude, I
cast
can barely
members-
I can barely introduce myself to Aaron Orlovitz. That man is a
All right, then I'll just be
a
like,
hermit.
hey, Spencer met me. He says you're a cool guy
no. He's great.
says you're a
He's
better
a
person than
solid
he
dude.
is.
Yeah,
because you remember
Absolutely.
people's names after 2 meetings. It takes him 10 meetings. Like,
4 to 5. Well, that's the thing. It's just like I don't know. It's just like when you're. Granted, I host an open mic, so like this is
you're
really
used to just
not
flooding
like.
through bodies. And
Yeah.
people that you're never gonna see again.
And like I'm not saying that like I'm coming from a place of authority because it's a fucking open mic, but
no,
like
he's speaking from logistics.
it's just like you're talking to people and a lot of them need something and a lot of them want something because they either want a spot, they want to go up earlier,
Yeah.
or someone was offended at a joke someone told. and
Yeah.
Someone needs to. There's
You get
just
standard host cynicism in a way.
you do, but it's also kind of you just like fit into the role and you're playing that character for a bit, and
Yeah.
like I could just kind of do it easily now, so like I'm not really I don't have to be present when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So I could kind of just be, saying the lines. Kind of like what I was talking about with the LDS church when I was
Yeah.
in the church. Yeah.
Yeah, because you were the guy that actually like tried to help, like at least
Yeah,
when you
no,
were in
like,
high
people
school,
would
you'd
come
help
to me
people
with their,
their
like,
faith
the-
issues or their faith challenges, and you knew the booklet to cite the lines,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like, wait, I'm about to do a 2-year mission, and
I mean, look into this. Yeah. And so, like, yeah, so, like, I don't know. I didn't want to be a door to door salesman for Jesus because
Yeah.
I didn't know how. I just wanted to believe the product that I was selling.
Exactly,
And it
yeah.
was actually serious now because, like, that's a 2-year commitment,
yeah,
where you have to, shower with a dude every day. And I didn't know if I wanted to take that in. So.
is that true? You're like, I'm buying all that right now. Is that
Are
true?
you? No. So here's the thing.
I don't know any better. You could
Oh
lie to
yeah,
me.
no, you're not a whole lot in that world.
No,
Okay,
no, I've been in
so
Utah for 3 years. I'm aware of I'm aware piece by piece of like LDS
yeah,
stuff or like 2-year missions and stuff
okay,
like that.
yeah. So when
But
you hit 18,
uh,
all the men are expected to go on an LDS mission, which
yes,
essentially being door-to-door salesman for Jesus.
yeah,
But it's
all
a
over the
very
world.
limited life. You're essentially like Buddhist monks.
Yeah,
But like without any of the cool parts of it. So you have to be with your
it's not like they teach you
companion
meditation.
constantly.
So
Yeah, you have to be with your companion constantly. Like you
yeah,
can't be alone unless you're going to the bathroom. If you're
right,
on a phone, the companion has to be with you. You are
yeah,
spending all day with this person.
right.
So if you hate them, you fucking hate them. Okay, I thought I was gonna burp. But yeah, no. If so, you just have to spend all day with these people, essentially going door to door, or giving talks, and essentially trying to bring people closer to Christ. And you have to pay to do it.
Right.
So you're essentially paying them to be in indentured servitude. And then like it's like a sales thing. Like you're like, oh, you've only had 5 baptisms this month. Why?
Yeah,
and it's like
there's a quota like in place.
absolutely,
Because
absolutely.
also I talked to one guy that I work with who was obviously a part of like but there's like a head person in charge of like there's an adult.
Yeah,
That's
the
sort of
mission
like,
president. Yeah.
yeah, I guess the president of your area, like they are the adult for like this group of LDS missionaries or whatnot, and so are they a part of that like quota checking?
Yeah, to a certain extent. Now, granted, I wasn't in a mission, so I know everything secondhand. So I can't I'm not telling you this is the absolute
the
truth
good news
of
is that
it.
you know better than me right now. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. I know a little bit more, but like honestly, it's not that much. But so yeah, the mission presidents, they're essentially just there to make sure that no one's fucking.
Right.
And making sure that like everything's kind of just going according to plan, because like
Right.
that is a real thing that happens. Like the church has multiple apartments in downtown Salt Lake for when sister missionaries get pregnant, and they will stay there throughout their entire mission, give the baby, give it up for adoption, and go right back out.
That's a lot. That's a lot to unpack
it is
right
so no, it is it's hard for me to talk about the church just because like there's a lot of humor in it, but I'm still like it's too close
you can't
to
make
me.
it funny yet.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. So like I feel like what a lot of comics run into, especially at the beginning, is they like watch Richard Pryor, they watch George Carlin, they watch Chappelle, or Rogan, or just like really dark guys like Jesselnick.
Or they're talking about like social issues.
Talk about social issues, darker material,
Yeah.
and just like when you talk about those, like you are just 2 miles up on a tightrope. When if you're talking about donuts like Gaffigan, you are like 2 feet up. Because if you fall 2 feet up, you're just he's just not funny.
Yeah,
but if you're 2 miles up talking about transgender people,
major,
you are 2 miles up, you're gonna die, and everyone hates you. And so it's just like some comics choose like a level 10 comedy bit for a level when they have a level 1 skill set. Like there are bits that
is like one of your
tell.
like one of your tenets, it feels like, in terms of something like you really believe in, because I've heard you mention that at other open mics when people are trying to like go highbrow topics but they try to make it funny, but they end up explaining more than even doing setup and punchline.
Well, the thing that kills me when they do that is like they say like you can laugh, like they
They're
constantly
giving
give
you permission to
and they're like, we want to, like we're trying to, you're not
Yeah.
doing it, you don't have the skill set to do it.
Yeah.
And now here's the thing, like I don't want to be that guy that's just like, oh, this is how comedy is and all that stuff, because I just know my own experience of it.
Yeah.
But I've been saying that a lot just because of the issues we've been having recently.
Yeah.
For those that are listening, we my open mic is very similar to another open mic that's not really comedy friendly.
Okay.
And so you've got a Greenhouse, right?
Yeah.
So like at Greenhouse, there's just some comics that were really new, but they were trying to do the George Carlins, the Richard Pryors, and all this
rambling
stuff.
kind of, the monologue kind of.
Yeah, but like
thing or
if you
something.
listen to Carlin at the beginning, or Birbiglia at the beginning, or Chappelle, they were doing setup punchline. They were doing bits.
I love that you know Mike Birbiglia.
Oh, dude,
'cause
he was my first.
Yeah, no,
He was my favorite.
his-
Him and
his,
Pete Holmes
his-
are some of my favorite.
My boyfriend's girlfriend's one of the goated, one of my like top 20. 'Cause
Absolutely.
it's one big fantastic story, and I love it.
I love the little divergences he does, and honestly, if I could have the skill set to do a Mike Birbiglia show, I 100% would want to do that in my own way.
But you were
of
saying
course.
about like skill sets and going on.
But yeah, it's just like, don't get me wrong, just those comics aren't like there yet, and you can try to, but like it's just a harder road. Like it's better to learn how to just do like set up punchline and just learn how you're funny, and learning that you're funny, than being like, oh, I'm going to speak truth to power with this. Now, granted, that being said, my act is a lot more speak truth to power. I talk shit on religion. I have that Bud Light bit right now. Like I'm not saying that I am completely blameless in this, and I'm only been doing it for 3 years, and that is not that long. And so
I I keep getting this because you and Chuck kind of started at the same time.
yeah,
Like,
similar.
well, not too
I
far.
would say he's been in the actual club scene longer. So I'm 22, and you have to be 21 to perform. So I've really only had about a
the
year.
only point I'm trying to
of,
make here is that, and this is part of like what is a motivating factor for like what helped get this podcast revived. Because I was telling you about this last night. Is that the Jailhouse Parlor in a simple idea was like much like just the Joe Rogan experience, where it's just he's interviewing whoever he wants.
I mean, yeah, there's
and
a lot of podcasts. Like
a lot of people try to
yeah.
do that. My problem I identified for just how my ego is that I couldn't. You should be good.
No, I just said, do you want something?
Nah, we're good. We're good. But like my ego wouldn't let me have that broad of a scope because it was just too big, and it was like I can't trust my judgment in a way without feeling like I'm being an egotist. And so
honestly,
so
a
that's where-
podcast is egotistical. Like it is a
it
very
is.
egotistical. I mean, here's the thing: we're in a very egotistical.
keep that point up.
Yeah, we're in a very egotistical one podcast and also just industry because like comedy itself is you're saying, hey, I'm funnier than everyone in this room. We should all listen to me right now.
Yeah.
Let me take you on this journey. And
Yeah.
when really you have no qualifications to do that. Like Louis has a bit about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's
But anyway, continue talking about your
ego.
ego.
The 3-year point because I was realizing I was doing a unnecessary tangent there.
No, I mean,
but I realized
there's
if
no
I,
such
if I
thing,
could've-
my guy.
If I
Be
could have
here
figured
now.
out the need for the social element, I could have been basically like starting as soon as I moved out here when you Chuck like a whole like that 3 years ago end of the pandemic kind of generation kind of started up. So that's where part of me with like trying to just eventually getting the focus of JHP on like the local comedy scene and so on is like I'm kind of making up for relationships and time that I lost.
Okay.
Without being hard regretful about it. Because you and I could have met 2-3 years ago when I moved here in December of like 2021 or 2020 basically.
That's true, but honestly, I feel like, because like honestly, if Chuck Fury started comedy at 21, like I started at 19
basically. Yeah.
No, when he was 21.
Yeah,
I don't think he would be doing as well as he's doing now. Like sometimes you need to grow up to the point where you actually deserve the stage.
Yeah.
Like, and that being said, I started when I was very young because I just wanted to get on it. But honestly, like there are comics that are older that just
Rodney
have lived more,
Dangerfield's like that.
and they just lived more life, and so they already have a lot to talk about. When like I'm 22 and I'm like, I need to live more life to talk about.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
And so I don't think there's any shame in like waiting longer. And I think you started when you needed to because there were some blocks you needed to get through. And honestly, it's better to start when you're not ready. There's a lot of just like bullshit that you're going to have to figure out.
Yeah.
And just speaking from someone who's, you know,
and
living
it's
that.
much more of me like sort of romanticizing like the scope of this podcast at
Yeah.
this point. Like, you know, once I basically move back to Florida, a lot of it's going to be like who of the Salt Lake comics have like the ability to have like a online phone call, you know, like a Discord or a Zoom call. Will be like a question to have, but I'll be doing the same scope when I get back to Orlando with IRLs like what we're doing right here.
Yeah, no,
So-
IRLs are fun.
So if anything, I'm just basically like romanticizing I get to have my connection into the Salt Lake scene that I could have had. I just have to figure.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, just to connect with it as much as I can for like I've got a month or two left here, and I just started 2 months ago, more or less.
Yeah.
So it's one of those where it's like it's I don't know, it's a swan song for a scene that I really enjoyed when I first got here, and it took me it unfortunately, but not regretfully, took me 2.5 years to like figure out what was blocking me, so that I could regularly go and enjoy even being bad at it. Like I go up with like some nerves now anymore, but I don't go up with like an existential crisis that like the entire room, comics and audience, are gonna like excommunicate me if I suck or something like that was a fear that I was sort of running through.
Really?
That
that could have easily been fixed with a conversation.
Well, and that's where, if you ever remember the first time we met out in front of Wise Guys, like on a Tuesday or something like that, I was talking to Liam about his magazine that he does because he does all of his photography stuff for the comedy scene.
Dude, shout out to Liam McGarrell. I love that man's photos.
Oh yeah,
He took a few of me on Instagram, and holy hell,
Well, he's got one with you and I want to say
Donnie Benelli.
Donnie Benelli.
Me
Yeah,
and my Make-A-Wish child.
Yeah, with your
Dude, it looked hilarious. I wanted to be like, yo, this is me and my bitch. What's up? But yeah,
It
no,
also
I
looks
like Make-A-Wish better.
wholesome, like
It was so wholesome. It
like-
was great. He was sitting on my lap, and I was actively trying not to get hard, so it was very enjoyable for
Checks out.
both of us. Yeah, no, I mean Chuck was nearby anyways.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
he was having a good time.
Yeah, and that's the first time you told me about the Alliance Theater, but that.
Oh
that,
yeah,
yeah,
were
that-
you sitting down?
I was
and
sitting
I was
down.
sitting down.
I was sitting next to
I
Corey
remember
Bay.
that conversation. I
sitting
remember
next
that
to Corey Bay,
conversation.
yeah. Corey Bay was on my left, and I was talking up to you or whatnot, which
Oh.
is what we always do anyway. But
Yeah, dude, I love those conversations where I don't know, like, really know them, but they were kind of talking about, like, oh, yeah, I kind of want to do comedy, or they're just barely getting into it. I'm just like, fucking do it. Go.
And that's what I've always been
Like,
told. That's what
and
I've
it's-
always been told.
Well, it's just like so many people, like, want permission to do it. And they were like, they want someone to be like, you're hilarious. You should do comedy.
Yeah.
And, like, that's the thing. Like, you don't want to necessarily be funny, like, in real life all the time and be on. Like, that's exhausting. You're going to get burned out. And
what I
people aren't
realized
going to like you as
yeah.
much. Just, like, be a normal person. But, like, when people are like, yeah, I want to do comedy, or I'm always thinking that I should.
Yeah.
And I'm like, go. Because one of two things are going to happen. You go up and you eat shit, and you're like, wow, that was horrible. I never want to do that again. So now you know.
Yeah.
Or two, you go up, eat shit, and you fucking love it.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is awesome. Or you go up and you actually do pretty well, and you're like, this is awesome. There's like, either way, you're going to get enough information to where you need, should continue to do this, or I should stop doing this.
Yeah. But like the point at least the point of the story I was getting to from that day. I'm with you.
I feel like so much of this podcast is me just like taking one thing you said and then just running with it. Then you're like, all right, well, I'm still telling a story, dude. Like I'm still let the host talk for a sec.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with it because
Okay.
I love how your passion is self-evident.
Well, I appreciate that compliment.
Yeah, your passion is self-evident.
I'm just opinionated.
Yeah, well, that's where also my job as host is like, all right, let's bring this back in. The topic we were attempting to go down before.
Yeah, it's like you're like running with your dog and you unleash them for a little bit, and then all of a sudden they just run into a
Nice,
field,
like
and you're like,
the
all
bunch
right,
start
let's
dragging
come
you
back.
back.
Let's come back to the sidewalk. Then I'm just like, no, there's a fucking
Squirrel.
bird over there, dude. I'm gonna fuck up that bird. And you're like, no.
You're not. It's gonna fly away every time.
Hmm.
But that day, the first day you and I met, that's the day that I finally like decided to like go over to where Mitch and Corey Bay were and just strike up conversation. Because for all of the time before, I was like, I'm just gonna sit in the corner like work on my jokes. And
Yeah, I've been there.
it's that
I've been there.
idea is like I'm gonna go. I want to do the work to like earn my spot or whatever.
Yeah,
When it's much more of, and especially for
Yeah.
like my reality, especially as an extrovert,
yeah.
and needing that extroversion to help process the anxiety or get the anxiety sort of out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where like, you know, having you actually sat down here and like meeting you like as a person, not as this Spencer Riley that's on like this pedestal that my mind is projected or whatever. You know?
Pedestals. Okay, yeah, no,
Yeah.
okay. I appreciate it.
You were even taller in my mind up until
Whoa, that
recently,
is
basically.
hard. Yeah, the
Yeah.
knee issues I would have in your mind are insane. I got
Yeah.
enough as it is.
But yeah, that day that you met me was the day that I was like, I'm gonna sit down. I know I'm already good for conversation. I'm already good for making conversation.
Yeah,
And so that night, even though I went on at like at 10:30 and I bombed or whatever, that was the first time I was sitting on the side of the stage ready to get called up, and I was excited to go up. Like I didn't.
Hell yeah.
I didn't.
That is.
I have
that
not
makes me-
cared about like doing really well on any of my sets.
That's you should. You should care.
I
You sh-
care-
You should care. You
I
should care.
care in that I'm trying to find every little bit, every 1% to improve on for comfortability, figuring out what makes these funny, what like.
Yeah.
So there is care there, but I'm not obsessing to a self-destructive point, I guess is what. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
no, it's a
articulate.
balance. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Real quick, I'm loving this conversation. I need to pee
Yeah, go
really
for it, go
badly.
for it.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Back from the bathroom this
We're
morning.
back. Look at us. Smelling worse. Little empty.
A little empty inside.
A little bit more empty. Yeah. Well, I peed, so I think I
Do
lost.
cigarettes just take out your soul? Is that the bit?
That
we're going
too. That too.
on?
No, there's honestly at this point it's just like let's see how fucked up I can put all these things into my system and still function. I feel like
So
that's what my
here's
life's at.
actually a pitch for a topic line. Do you want to
Okay.
talk about the Alliance Theater? Open
Yeah,
mic that you
sure.
run,
I mean,
or-
it's definitely a big part of my life, and I love it. It is.
Some part of me wishes more comics had like your forthright or your startupness to actually start more open mics in Salt Lake, because sometimes it feels like
Yeah.
there's not enough.
Well, the hard thing is. So let me kind of tell the story of how I started
Yeah,
hosting it.
yeah.
So it was about I had done comedy for like a month right before COVID.
Right.
And world shut down, and I really loved doing comedy, and I felt like I was, kind of starting to see, the rewards of doing a set every single week.
Yeah.
And it was just a greenhouse effect, because that was the only place that anyone that under 21 you could do comedy, because I was like 19.
Yeah.
And then 2020 hit, and so like all of a sudden there's no even open mics period. The entire world shut down, and I ended up going to a coffee shop with a cousin of mine.
Mm-hmm.
At Athena's.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and they're like, actually, I think they just barely started an open mic, and it's all social distance and all that stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to go and just try to perform again, I'm like, oh, I'd love that.
Yeah.
And so I show up, and it is the worst, most chaotic open mic I've ever seen. Like, you see, like, sometimes Greenhouse can get a little crunchy.
Yeah.
This was just extra crunch Jiffy peanut butter. Like, this was, like, you had to
Nothing
drink
but nuts.
water.
Yeah.
Dude, you were legitimately, it's just peanuts. Like, there is no, it is, like, there's a guy that's saying Edelweiss karaoke, and I don't mean like, Edelweiss, Edelweiss. It's Edelweiss, Edelweiss. Like, it's just like super out of key, and you could tell this guy was just like, I need to get out there, I need to put myself out there, and I'm sure his therapist told him to do it or something like that. Like, I don't know, like, it was painful to watch.
I love how the subtext there, Spencer, is like, your therapist might have told you to do this. I'm here to tell you don't ever
don't
do it.
Don't do it again, dude. Like, honestly, you should get a new one at that point. But yeah, then there was another comic that we both know who did a very racist pro-Trump set. And granted, if you're at a coffee shop, you probably shouldn't be alt-right.
No.
It's not really the vibe, so he bombed.
Yeah.
The host, she was a comedian, and she big-timed me immediately.
Uh-oh.
And, like, I had just barely been doing comedy, but I was so excited to meet another comedian, because I've met Sam, Aresh, and Nick Lucero at that point.
Right,
in terms of, like, the whole... Greenhouse. Oh, Noah Ahumada too. He was fun. So I didn't know many comics. You're not going to be going to Wise Guys and meeting them all. So like I was just so excited to meet them.
Right.
They were just like, "Oh, I've been doing it for 5 years." I'm like, "Oh, cool. That's awesome." And I'm just like super excited.
They're trying to be like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
She's like, "Well, you'll see. And I'm like, it was just so slimy. And I'm like, okay, well, I just want to be. I
want to be here.
Yeah, and I was just so excited to be there.
I love how you have no shame about just pitching like how just naive, optimistic young Spencer was. Like,
absolutely.
It's so sweet or wholesome for the story.
I still am too, to a certain degree. Like, I think everyone should like romanticize their life in a way, and like add poetry where there probably shouldn't be. I mean, life can be boring without it.
Well, I think
like the monotony of life can kind of get.
Well, life
in the
is
way.
dramatic if you make it, and you can be dramatic in the best ways. Like
Absolutely.
Going back to romanticizing. Like if you haven't made yourself like the main character of your own story, what are you?
Dude, honestly, I'd take that to a umpteenth level. I think of my life into like TV shows. Like I just barely started my next season. My last one was dark as hell. Like the writer strikes really fucked over my show.
Right.
But yeah, so like super young, I'm just like wanting to do comedy, and so yeah, that comic goes up and bombs. The host goes up, and I don't even know what they're saying, let alone like where to laugh.
Like you don't understand their words. Or
no, it's just like they were speaking.
Not...
They were speaking, but they weren't making sense. Like it was like someone was having a stroke in real time. Like it was like so awkward to watch. And then like there were like these two old guys these two old Jews that were playing guitar, talking about the COVID blues. Like it was just every bad aspect of an open mic that I've ever seen combined. But I go up and they were giving 15 minutes, and no one should be doing 15 minutes, especially that early on.
Right.
And I did the full 15, and I fucking murdered. Like everyone was laughing, everyone was rolling, and I was like, holy hell, because there was just so much pent up comedic aggression.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't do comedy. So when you get up there, it's like, all right, fucking let's go.
Right.
And I was like wearing my T-Mobile shirt. I just barely came straight from work. Like it was just like a weird ass set. Like the set's brought to you by T-Mobile, the Magenta Plan Max. So after that, I was just like, well, this is just as crazy of an open mic as humanly possible, but it's the only one I can go to, and I love performing, and the bartender there was really nice. The owner seemed pretty cool as well, so like I kept going, and about like I think it had been going for about a month, and after my set, because I was doing, I wasn't like killing, but I was pretty consistently funny. I didn't have any bombs there at that point, which is rare. It's especially that early on. I just like found a groove, and I've lost it since. But like you get it back and you lose it, then you get it back. You know, it's just a normal momentum thing. And so the owner comes up to me after a set. Was like, "Hey, that was really great." I'm like, "Oh, thank you. I
And
really
we'll go back
appreciate
to your
it."
first time, right? Your
Yeah,
first
this
time.
is like probably my 10th time
Your-
doing comedy.
But your first time at like the Athena open mic.
Yeah,
is what
the
story
Athena.
was,
Yeah,
right?
so
Yeah,
I'm
so
about
T-Mobile
a
shirt
mo-
on. You've been big time by the host and
Yeah.
stuff. You
The
were,
host
what,
did not get nicer. The host did not get
But you,
nicer.
and you were like 17, so you can only go to
19.
the. You're
19, yeah.
so you're still going to these under 21 open mics, like all two of them at this
yeah,
point. between
essentially.
Greenhouse and
There was
now
also
Athena.
High Point, but High Point was very old people music oriented.
Right.
Like it was just a bunch of old guys just
You have
wanted to
do,
hang
like,
out with their
colostomy
friends.
bag jokes, basically. To like,
Yeah,
relate
dude.
to them.
Because like I had the angst of the young Spencer too. I still
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
Pretty obviously. But I remember at one point no one was listening. So I was on stage, but no one was listening, and that is the worst thing. Because like if you're watching me and not laughing, I at least know I'm the issue. But like if you guys don't have the respect to actually watch,
Yeah.
like that pissed me off. So I legitimately said, "I'll see. Okay, I'm leaving. See you guys in 2 weeks at your funeral or whatever comes soonest." Like because these guys were like towards the end of their life, and they were angry.
And that's at the old people's place.
That's
basically?
the old people's place,
Right,
not
right.
not at Athena's.
Okay,
no,
okay,
that was at
so-
High Point.
So get back to this Athena
Okay,
story.
so with Athena's, I've been going for about a month at that point.
You go up for this
and-
15 and do quite well.
Yes,
Surprisingly well,
Yeah.
if we will.
No, absolutely. And I kept doing that for like a month after that.
Yeah.
And then the owner comes up to me, he's like, "Hey, I really like your set. You're a crowd favorite here. It's been, getting
Nice.
pretty cool. I'm glad we just barely started this open mic, so we're happy." And like it just made, little Spencer feel so good about himself.
That heart of joy is
yeah,
just like doing
it was
jumping.
just, yeah, cuz like when you're that new and someone says like, "Hey, no, you're funny."
That you're doing
It's you need a lot of that. You need a lot of external validation when you're
Oh,
first
yeah.
starting out. And I think a lot of comics just need external validation, period. Just
Oh, yeah.
performing to 100 people every single night telling dick jokes thinking I'm funny. So yeah, it was a really, really great conversation. He's like, "If we ever put on comedy shows, we want to have you a part of it." I'm like, "Well, that's really cool." And it was a really cool performance space. And I was like, "Wow, I'm doing it. I'm
Yeah.
doing the comedy. This is awesome."
Yeah.
And then later that night, I get a text. It was like, "Hey, this is the host." I'm like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And she's like, "Back off. You are, yeah, back off. You are trying to encroach on my mic. You're trying to take it over. You're trying to slither your way in here." And I'm like, he's like, it's so inappropriate to talk to the owner about putting on a show. And granted, I agree. I was approached though. I wasn't going out of my way trying to do it, and I was just being friendly. Like I'm trying to add to your thing, not take away from it by any stretch.
Right.
And like I was just so like confused by like the entire situation. And I was like, no, I don't want to host. Hosting sounds horrible. I'd rather just be a comic, say my shit, and leave.
So I'm going to show you this person's name that I remembered from an open mic that I just heard of them. I think they were hosting it or whatnot. And this is like 2
Yeah.
years ago now.
Okay.
Does that ring a bell, or are you?
No, not that one. That's here. I'll type it in.
Okay, I might not even recognize it, of course.
You honestly, you're probably not going to.
Yeah,
we'll,
yeah.
we'll talk about it off air. But
Yeah.
it's not that one. Although I could see them acting a very similar way. Yeah, I'm not gonna get into that aspect.
No,
but,
no. Drop my way. So okay. So the
Yeah.
host messages you basically
So
saying back
back
off. My
off.
turf." Yeah.
You're on my turf. I get that you're new, so I'll go easy on you this time. Like it was just like slimy stuff, and it was like totally like
gaslighty gangster
not yeah.
nonsense. Like,
It was horrible.
Yeah.
And I was also high as shit, and I was just
When you got the
barely
message.
started smoking. So like this is like when your tolerance is low.
Uh-huh.
So I am in another dimension communing with elves, and all of a sudden I just get a notification on my phone being like, "Hey, you're a piece of shit white man trying to slither your way in," because they were a woman, and it was just like I was beside myself. I was like, "Oh my god, I just got banned from the only open mic that I've ever liked going to and been able to go to."
and you were winning at.
Yeah,
You were
and I was
doing
like,
well at.
I finally felt like I was getting some like momentum,
Yeah.
and so I show up next Monday, just being like, you know what? Even if I'm banned, I just want to watch,
Yeah.
and I'll just be a professional.
Yeah.
And I go, and that host is nowhere to be found.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh, they're probably just on their way or they're late.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to the bartender, and I'm very clearly skirting around the issue, and we're just talking, having a good time. And then I was like, hey, where's the host?
Yeah,
And they're like, oh, we need to talk about that. And I'm like, shit, I thought I was going to get a slap on the wrist, be like, hey, I'm sorry, like, you're great, but we can't have you around anymore. And they show me an equally long text thread between the bartender and the host talking about we need to ban Spencer because they tried to get me banned.
The
And
host
they were
basically goes to the bartender.
yeah,
saying,
it's like we need to ban Spencer. He's problematic.
And the bartender's like what, manager effectively or something?
Essentially the manager of the place, yeah.
Okay,
and they were like, we're not going to ban him. He's been nothing but nice. He's like, it's normal for all the white men to slither in after all the women do the hard work. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, all right, I don't feel bad anymore. Fuck off. Because that's not what it was at all.
No,
like, I really did not want to host. I didn't want to be a part of that. I just wanted to go up, say my stuff, and then leave. You know, it seemed like too much
They're
work.
attributing malice and just using your skin tone as like as
Yeah.
validation for the assertion.
Yeah, and that's the type of feminism where I'm just like, all right, fuck off. I don't give two shits about it at that point.
No.
Now, granted, that's a very small minority of the women. So
No. It's those.
but it's so annoying when you see it, and it's just icky, and yet not a big fan.
I have no problem throwing these fucking lights, but it's that narcissist sociopath, you know, or
there's definitely some BPD there. Absolutely,
or just insecurity shit.
Oh yeah, so well, I mean, here's the thing: if you bomb 4 weeks in a row at your own open mic and like not a single laugh, honestly, yeah, I would
reevaluate exactly what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So they showed me that, and then I think the last thing they said is, it's a shame women aren't supporting other women. And I'm like, okay, yeah, again, get fucked. I'm not super happy about it. And they're like, anyway, so fuck them. Do you want a host? We need one. And I'm like, yeah, sounds good. Because at that point, he was a part of a. Because at that point, he was a petty bullshit thing. Like legitimately, they were going out of your way to say, hey, host, fuck you. We're gonna actually bring him in now. And I was like, you know what? I don't really want to like host long term, but until we can find an actual host for you,
yeah, I'll
do it intermittently. And like we had like 5-10 people for the first like couple weeks, and then slowly but surely we started to get into the 10s and 15s. And I would still give comics,
of like comics, or
in terms of performers and comics too. I mean, Trey Lamb and Colin Schumacher and
because that was
Brian Suppin.
That's what I found so fascinating, because I realized how for at least Salt Lake, and I think it's probably anywhere, open mics are hard to track down on the internet.
Yeah.
And so talking to, I think like I was talking to 5K last night, that he wasn't even aware of some of the open mics like that even I.
Well, that's because we don't tell him things. I'm just joking.
But it was either him or even other people, like maybe Juan. I cannot remember his stage name to save me. But most of the
Juan
comics,
Flores, I think.
It might be his full name. I forget what his stage name is.
I don't know. He doesn't come to Alliance a whole lot.
He's a goofy, funny motherfucker.
Yeah,
like, I love his energy.
He's a really good hang. Yeah. Absolutely.
But I
haven't seen his set as much as I'd like to. I've just been busy.
But there's something in me where I was asking around. I was like, why does it feel like a lot of comics that you would see on Tuesday or Wednesdays aren't at all the other open mics throughout the week? And some word could be like they're kind of full of shit on what they're doing. But the other part,
there's definitely some like big time, like they wouldn't be caught. Like there's a lot of comics that honestly really need Shades or Alliance or Greenhouse or Oh Shucks, and they just wouldn't be caught dead.
And that's where I just get back to at least the thing that I've done, because I was like, I need to figure out where these are, because I need to figure out where my options are to schedule my life with a wife and all the other stuff that I do. And so that's where, like, I don't know, at least my contribution outside of just having my own showcasing of the comics as I roll through them on this podcast is like, no, I'm tracking down every open mic that I hear and think of, between Amanda Panda's one on Sundays at Midway to Greenhouse.
Have you been to that one?
We've talked about it a little bit.
Oh, have we? I haven't gone. I do Greenhouse every week.
I like it, but the thing is that it's a bar crowd.
Yeah.
It's well lit, which is nice for seeing people.
Yeah.
And so you could have a table of patrons up front, but it does end up being like more comics than patrons. Which is kind of here or there to me.
There's definitely benefits to those types of mics. Bar mics specifically, sometimes you have to abuse the audience to get them to pay attention.
Yeah.
Because like we used to do the Ice House, and it's a good bar. It's fine enough, and like with that crowd is they were also doing poker night, and so everyone's playing poker, and then you're just on the stage telling your jokes, and like they don't want to pay attention, and if they do, they're usually like just staring over, so you got to get their attention. Sometimes like fights have been broken out because a comic just kept talking shit, because they're like, fucking pay attention to me. Like if you can get them to pay attention, you killed, like in that opinion. Holly used to host that mic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's where I think I think Amanda just has the sense for at least the Midway open mic on Sundays to be like, no, there's a dart tournament. Like why are we going to try to contest for attention when there's a clear competition occurring? So like Like I don't know if that's where in my mind there's either going to a bar to chill out
Mm-hmm.
and you could interrupt that chill out with an open mic,
Yeah.
or there's an actual tournament occurring, like a dart tournament in the corner,
Yeah.
and maybe you could play into that, or maybe you don't want to have too many things trying to pull attention and then like creating tension between the comics and like the competition.
Well, that's what it brings, is like when two things are going on, like obviously like there's gonna be issues, you know, like there's at Alliance sometimes they do capoeira in the other room and it's loud and okay, capoeira is bullshit. I genuinely
tangent found.
Yeah,
We're
tangent
attacking.
found. Yeah,
We're attacking
capoeira is bullshit because one, it's a no contact thing, and you're essentially dancing. Don't call it martial arts by any stretch, because you're not fighting. You're just dancing. Like they're not even hitting, and they're just like.
Are you aware of like the cultural history of that?
I'm not. But here's the thing: the only reason I have this opinion is because sometimes they're using the main room in the theater, and they're not using that much space, but they're just using it when they're using as much space as we use in our fucking black box.
Yeah.
So honestly, they can move to the black box and it's fine.
And then
but
we could have
no.
the full main theater.
Then we could have a main theater where we could, make money. Make more money for the theater. It's going to be a better idea for the theater if we're even in there, because bar sales triple when we're in there.
They're too awkward in the black box.
Yeah, it's too awkward in the black box. You got to go on the back. You got to like whisper. You're like, hey, can I do this?
Yeah.
I really want to pay. Like it's like, what IPAs do you have on tap? Like it's weird. It's not ideal. So of course people aren't going to be drinking as much, and like you can't see people in the black box. Like I love the black box. It's a really fun stage to really fuck around in. Like I was climbing on the chairs a couple weeks ago, telling the sound guy to go fuck himself.
Oh, I always am on that giant table in the back, sitting on that, just to give regular patrons like real chairs.
Yeah, and like I have no issues with the black box itself, but just with the existence where there's a bunch of people making it smell objectively worse. And screaming. Meanwhile, like someone's doing a heartfelt poem just about like, like you broke my heart and I had to make art with the pieces, and then like someone's just like, ah! Like they're screaming, just like doing their drums.
It really messes up the recording.
Absolutely. It just messes with the vibe, No.
See, the thing that I realize also is that they're only using the lobby outside of the main
Not even on,
Yeah,
dude,
they're not even using like the space.
Go to a park where that stuff is accepted,
You know what? I was going to tell you like the cultural history of capoeira, but I'll let you sit in your room.
Okay, you said it. You said it correctly too. Fuck you. You probably say kung fu. You say kung fu.
Actually,
don't you?
Is that how you pronounce
Jiu-jitsu. That's what you say.
I know it.
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but no, here's the thing. I am a
liar.
black belt. I am a black belt.
Oh,
I fought professionally. Then I did. I taught for a couple years too. Like I am very much in that world. Once I started doing comedy, I just didn't do it as much just because of time. So I want to go in there. And just
skirmish some other.
Yeah, I want to go in there with a gauntlet, throw it down, and say, okay, give me your best fighter, and if I win, I get the space.
I want to make that content even if Alliance doesn't honor
dude,
it.
No, it makes okay. So like the person that does the capoeira is on the board of directors for the theater, so they technically do get first claim. And like I understand why capoeira. I'm essentially trying to backtrack so I don't get banned from Alliance Theater. But so you don't like the patrons?
I'm just gonna clip
here's the thing. They're all aware.
I'm gonna clip this inappropriately later, Spencer, and send it directly to Alliance.
Yeah, it's like this is the type of content you appreciate. No, and here's the thing. Like Alliance has been very good to us, and I really I do like working with them. And I understand why we can't have it in the main room the entire time, and also just it costs more, and I don't want to spend $300 a Monday to do my open mic when I'm not making nearly enough to cover that. So like I get it.
Yeah.
But that being said, fuck capoeira. Just like, dude, let's meet at dawn.
You need to like
in a place of your choosing. If you want weapons, you can get weapons. I don't need them. No.
This is such a good content idea in my head for marketing for both of your situations, for Alliance Theater, the capoeira lessons, and the open mic that you run. Because your open mic's just the Alliance Theater open mic. Like there's not a.
It's technically the Artistic Underground open mic, but it's a mouthful either way. So I usually just say the Alliance.
Yeah.
Just like Athena's used to be the Athena mic, but now it's just Athena.
But that's a better name.
Yeah.
It's an easier.
But anyway, let me finish the Athena story.
Yeah.
So I started hosting, and we had
Good job,
5
you
people.
found your way back.
Yeah, look at us. Well, I'll always find a way to talk about myself. So yeah, every Monday for like a year, I would just show up way early, as the host. I'm the host now. This is now my thing, and so if it doesn't succeed, it's on me. And if it's not a good mic, it's on me. So I legitimately did everything I could. I fine-tuned the hell out of it. Like for the first year, not a single open mic was the same in terms of formatting, in terms of timing, in terms of set times.
You were in a year of experimentation.
Absolutely. But the thing is like we weren't big then, so it was kind of easy to do.
Yeah.
So like we had it's easy to fuck around when there's only like 10, 15 people compared to like the 30 to, you know, I think we hit up at 100 at Athena's at one point. And so like it's gotten popular, which I'm super grateful for, but the community wasn't really there. So we would have like big nights.
The bodies weren't interconnected.
Yeah, they weren't. They hadn't drunk the Kool-Aid yet. You know,
the milk.
No one understands that joke, but I appreciate it. Fairly Odd Parents riff. But yeah, so I just slowly fine-tuned it. Then I because it used to be like more mixed, like Greenhouse, so like the comedy and the poetry and the music were all combined. But then the whiplash from it was so bad because someone was just like, I tried to kill myself in a river and I washed up on the shores of the Great Salt Lake, a new man, and I had to find a new way to live. And like it was just like really dark shit. Then all of a sudden, like Andreas is just like, what's the deal with retards? Like it's just a completely different vibe. And then you go into like Sean Baker music, who was just like, we're all gonna die someday. It's just like it's exhausting. It's exhausting having to see all of them. Now granted, there's definitely mics that make it work. You know, Greenhouse does a great job, but that's just because they're shorter sets. You know, but for so once we split up the comedy and I started running it like a real comedy show, and we started to get more comics. And once it kind of got into the rotation, then we started to become competition for the other Monday mics. And we were starting to pull more from Provo, and then we got into the rotation of, do Improv Broadway, and then do Athena's, then do Ice House, because Ice House used to be on Mondays and Wednesdays.
Yeah, because it was like a 10 o'clock start time.
Yeah. So it was just we had a really good time slot, you know? Like, you know, you needed a good time slot for your TV shows in the 80s. Yeah, so we started at like 7:30, and like, so you would either go to Improv Broadway, then Ice House, or Athena's and Ice House, and Improv Broadway was mostly Provo. But towards the end...
Broadway was also clean.
That too, yeah. We had to be clean for a bit. So when I was at Athena's, eventually moved to the Alliance Theater about I think 2.5 years in. But Athena's was a constant battle with the owner to keep the comedy the way it was. And there would be months where we had to do it according to the owner's rules and plans, and the mic suffered. Like people weren't coming out as much. The people
was the owner like forcing clean comedy and such like
so
that,
what happened is Colin Schumacher did a Colin Schumacher joke.
He goes hard.
And it really offended some two older Jews in the audience. I found it hilarious, but no one really cares what the young Jews feel. And they complained to the owner, and it was a whole issue. And afterwards, the owner was like, comedy has to be clean. And I'm like, I completely disagree, and we had like long conversations before and after the mic about just clean comedy and dirty comedy and what it should be. Because like, here's the thing: we're not doing our tight five at an open mic. You shouldn't be. You should be going to an open mic to try stuff out, and you need to allow people to fuck up, and to learn how to be better. Like I'm not gonna get mad at you for fucking up on stage. It's when you're blatantly not wanting to learn and you're fucking up on stage, and then you're going out of your way to fuck up on stage. Because then at that point, it's just you're just hurting
wasting
yourself and
everyone's
everyone.
time.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the only time where I'll actually step in and be like, okay, come on, dude. Really? But yeah, no, I want you to be able to bomb on stage. I want you to say the most horrendous things on stage and, you know, learn how to say that. I definitely think there's a time when you should start to learn that, and that's kind of why I say like the level 1 comedian, level 10 comedy bit. But if you want to do level 10 comedy bits and fail, you're more than welcome to, because maybe it'll help you in otother ways.
Well, I remember, I think I forget which podcast it was on, but like Louis C.K., and he's obviously like an 11 out of 10.
Yeah, no, he's
but
the
what
best.
he does, and this is where like Athena would be a block for it, is that Louis will go to the Cellar in New York, and he'll be going into really dark like pedo or really like horrible topic lines, and the crowd will be dead to it. And what he talks about in terms of his process is that he's looking for like that one little laugh to let him know like there's a thread here that as I work on this really dark topic, I can turn this into a really good joke, a really good bit. It's just that those, like, because if you go down any of his discography, a lot of the topics he go into are really dark or really gross. And the reality is that if you understand the craft and understand the need for it to be like clean mics are going to limit people's ability to really go into those dark topics and turn them into like masterful jokes. Granting they're not putting themselves in over their heads when they're early. Like,
I feel like clean mics are valuable in their own
Yes.
way. Learning how to write clean, it will make you a better writer because
Yeah.
you know if you take away half of your tools, you know, and you can make something
still
with
make a chair. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like absolutely, that's a good analogy. Like it's definitely helpful, but it's not something that you should do all the time by any stretch.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't just do Wise Guys. You should also do Alliance. You should do Copper Miner because like you get different things from different mics.
Yeah.
You know, and if you just get used to Alliance and if you only go to Alliance, you're not going to do as well as Wise Guys. You got to be more well rounded.
Yeah.
And that's why I wish there was a little bit more of an alt scene in Salt Lake. And just because, you know, so many comics are just used to that Wise Guys Club comedy, which is a very popular type of comedy by a lot of stretches, and I love it, and I do it. But, like, sometimes I wish there was, like, a UCB, like in New York, because that's where the alt scene is mainly in New York.
What's the UCD?
UCB, it's a comedy club where, like, basically the entire alt scene goes, usually. It's like the
Right.
Wise Guys of the alt scene
It's
in
like
New
where
York.
all the edgelords or punk kind of
More
kids go,
like,
something that, or
more like the Berbiglias, more
Okay.
like the Pete Holmes.
the very niche kind
yeah,
of
like John
comics.
Mulaney was a big UCB guy.
Yeah.
And the Cellar is like the Comedy Store. It's like the Wise Guys. Like I wish
Yeah.
there was a UCB in Salt Lake. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, just because the alternate scene and just the way comedy is right now. I don't know if it's super possible, but I think it could be eventually.
Is Salt Lake always drained of its talent?
Drained?
Like, is there a brain drain effect on the Salt Lake comedy scene? Is a curiosity because the three meccas are very obvious. in
Yes and
comedy.
no. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of comics that move on. There's not a whole lot of them that have like done a whole lot, because I know Shane Smith and Jay Whitaker and Scott Fillmore and like Ryan Irwin. Like there are definitely people that move to New York and try to make their big start,
Yeah.
or L.A. Salt Lake's a great place to develop for sure, but there is a lot of comics that are gonna live and die in Salt Lake. And they could move if they wanted to, but I feel like they're kind of just in that world now, where you know they live a really good life with Wise Guys, and you know they don't necessarily like want to live that road dog life. Where,
Yeah.
you know we've all romanticized in our heads. You know.
Yeah. Well, that's where I met a guy last night who's been doing like off and on comedy for like 10 years. And he's in like a cool dude or whatnot. But he actually had the kind of opposing thing. It's like, I didn't think the road dog lifestyle was going to be nice. So he just does his regular job and then does his creative outlet with comedy, you know?
Yeah, I can respect that for sure. I mean,
Are you
I want to be a road dog.
In
Like,
the proper timing, are you excited to like actually go out and be like a road dog and travel?
Oh, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
as soon as I can work on the road regularly, I think I would do that. Maybe not my entire life by any stretch, but like I want to learn what audience is like in St. Louis. I want to
Yeah.
know what an audience is like in Alabama.
Yeah.
Like I want to go to the weird buttfuck towns where there's not a lot of comedy and they're just
Yeah.
excited to see comedy.
They're excited
and
to have
see-
anyone paying attention
Yeah,
to them.
and just like see how like your set goes, because like Salt Lake is a very specific type of audience, and no matter where you go, like Alliance is very different obviously than the Wise Guys, but you're still getting a very specific type of audience.
Yeah.
And your act needs to translate to you, because you don't just want to be funny in the 5-mile radius of Salt Lake. You know,
No.
you need to be more well-rounded. So yeah, once I have the means and the abilities, I 100% am going to try to perform in every place I can.
Yeah, you're right. You are.
Yeah, once I'm ready. You know.
It's between excited, ready, got the chops built, got the sets built, and
you know.
everything. Have you done any? You actually did you do shows down in down in Las Vegas?
Yeah, no, I did 2 shows down in Las Vegas. I've done shows in Longmont and Denver, and Elko. Those are all my road gigs so far.
Nice.
Yeah, no, Longmont was a blast. I really enjoyed Longmont. I liked it more than Denver. Just doing a show.
Small towns have more personality.
Yeah, and it's close enough to Denver to where it was nice, and it was also the first time I was like after 21 and I bought weed and I was able to smoke it, and I was smoking a joint on Main Street in Longmont, and I see a cop, and I was like, "Do you want a hit?" Motherfucker took a hit. Cop took a big ass hit from my joint and said, "Have a great night." And I'm like, "God love it. I love this place. This is exactly what I want, where I want to be." But yeah, I feel like the quality in Salt Lake is really high.
It feels
in
like,
terms of
especially
comedy.
like for what the limited amount that I saw in Orlando, like there's something about where Orlando felt like really disconnected from each other, like all the comics that were there. And then I come out here and I see the clicking occurring, just where people are standing around like in Wise Guys or whatnot on like a Wednesday or whatever. But the quality on that Wednesday night that I saw was just, and even like Tuesdays could get really bad, but like the quality that I saw on a Wednesday was just really good. And I was like, there's nothing like this in my mind back in Orlando, because the Orlando Improv is the main comedy
honestly,
hub.
Wednesday is probably one of the best open mics in the country.
Probably could be.
No, genuinely. Like there are a lot of comics from out of state will fly in for a Wednesday sometimes. Like Ryan Hamilton loves doing a Wednesday. He comes up a lot. Steve Solberg.
Nice.
Alex Edelman, he did a Wednesday and a Tuesday once.
Yeah.
Do you know Alex Edelman?
No. Most of his
Great
names are like flying
comic.
past me or whatnot.
He's on the newer.
I hear Stolberg, and I think of like the grocery store out in like Grantsville or something like.
Oh, no, not that. No, Steve Solberg. He's a local guy, but he I think he just did a cruise ship. He's great. He's a really nice guy. Ryan Hamilton, you know him, right?
No, but I probably recognize his face.
Dude, come on. You got to learn. You got to learn the stories.
Dude,
you got to know the lore.
I'm 2 months deep. This is why I'm having.
Yeah, but that's what your the rest of your life was supposed to be. You know, because like growing up, I listened to so many comedians to now where I just have an encyclopedia of comedy knowege. Or just like, that bit and that bit and that bit. I have an
encyclopedia of the comics that I paid attention to, basically.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You got to. I know. I learned comedy through Pandora. You know, so I listened to Jim Gaffigan at the beginning, and then it went to Brian
Steve
Regan,
Rosanowski or something like that.
Yeah, Steve Rosanowski is a good one on Pandora. He was big on Pandora. Chad Daniels,
yes.
Dan Cummins. But yeah, that's where I learned Kyle Kinane. Oh, I fucking love Kyle Kinane. He's hilarious.
I liked his old stuff.
Shit. Oh my god, I broke the seal. I'm really sorry. I gotta pee again.
Off he goes.
And here we are. Now we're having a good time. So where were we?
Oh, we were actually kind of discussing like what our landmark catalog of like comics were. And stuff like that. I actually had this conversation with David last night because he's like, "What are your 3 like favorite comics?" And all I can really kind of give most people is like the standouts for him. Like Mike Birbiglia is.
Yeah, Birbiglia is a great one.
My boyfriend's girlfriend. That special is fantastic. Ron White has a spot in my heart because that was the one like me and my dad bonded over.
Tater salad.
From like Blue Collar Comedy Tour back in the day, because that was the first time I saw a stand up was Blue Collar, and then Christopher Titus. Christopher Titus is Norman Rockwell is Bleeding was the one that basically like transitioned me into the dysfunctional family life that I was existing in, and so that one really connected to me for when I was at the end of like middle school or whatnot, early high school. Bigger and Blacker is like goated as fuck.
Yeah, it's crazy when you see like a comedy special that just sees you so much, and you're like, holy shit, like this is. I think that's like the we're all just trying to relate to it, you know, and if you can write that type of relatable comedy, it's very valuable. I mean, I don't know who said this, but he said like the more specific you are, the more you're going to relate to the wider ranges of audiences. Which it feels like an oxymoron if you really think about it, but like it's honestly really valid.
It's actually this is talked about like in one of the improv books that I read that had like Del Close's like impact or influence on it. Yeah, I read actual improv books too. But one of them pointed out that Mike Myers that did like Shrek and whatnot, Austin Powers.
Yeah.
He would he wouldn't just say ketchup in like a scene, he'd be like Heinz ketchup. Like he'd add specificity to it because, and I see this a little bit with the improv show that I run, that the more detail that's sort of provided for the audience and therefore the players, it allows them to play in it or really capture it much more fully.
Yeah.
Some of the most struggling scenes that I've seen in an improv in 3 Dams and a Tale is when not enough detail is provided, so therefore there's not enough constraints for then the human mind to activate its creativity to like problem solve or move its way through it.
Give them as many variables as possible because you don't know what variable is going to be the coolest thing.
It's like if I put you in the middle of like a plain, it's like you're in the middle of a wheat field and that's all I give you. Like you might come up with like a little thing, but there's no sense of direction. There's no landmarks.
Yeah, there's a lot you have to add to that wheat field to make it interesting.
You as the player would have to really take a lot of creative liberties.
Yeah.
To like create anything out of that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just like chewing grass, or maybe you are a cow, or like
like you're in a wheat field and all of a sudden you see tire tracks with a bunch of broken.
Well, now there's a mystery.
There's a mystery. Now there's something where you can go.
Yeah.
That's a question that you can answer down the scene. I like that. Yeah, I was doing improv about like a week ago, and we were doing like a long form scene, and I I used to teach improv when I was like in high school, but like once I started doing comedy, like I threw everything out the window, which is
Yeah.
I kind of regret because there's a lot of great things you can learn from improv. So I've tried to start to do it again. And there's a guy where he like just like made a joke about like, oh, the cop has a gun. I mean, not the cop, but like the boss has a gun. We were going through like the office of his boss. He was like, oh,
Right.
there's a gun there. And I was just like all that stuff, and like he was like just used it for a punchline. And I'm like, I don't think you realize the concept of Chekhov's gun, which is essentially if you put a gun on a table, that gun has to be shot at some point, or else that gun doesn't need to be on that table. You
Yeah,
know, just
exactly.
like concise writing. And like towards the end of the scene, I was just like. And he was like, we were fighting. I'm just like, you know what? Don't add a gun if you don't want a motherfucker to use it. And I even said that on stage, and then I shot him, and then the scene ended. It was a crazy, crazy ass time.
That's a fantastic.
Yeah, I'm just like, dude, don't add
So
shit
you
if you
guys
don't
are,
want
like,
someone to use
Are
it.
you guys meta arguing about
Uh,
writing in this scene?
I
so
was,
to
I
speak?
was absolutely doing this to him, and he was still in the scene. And now, granted, like I had the liberties of like since I was still very rusty, I could probably make some bad improv decisions
Yeah.
for my own sake. But yeah, it was like this.
But the meta joke worked basically. Because
Yeah,
you
to
check off
me.
Gundam at that by
yeah,
the end of it.
to me,
yeah.
I was like, yeah, don't add Chekhov's gun if you don't want a motherfucker to use it.
Yeah.
And because like I could tell like with where the guy was taking the scene, he wanted to like kind of put me in a corner,
Right.
you know. And he's just like, this is where we're going with it, and I was just like, fuck. Oh,
like you
you're not gonna
you've
do
seem
this to
have
me.
forgotten what was given to the scene, and I will use it. Oh,
Your work is the soul of your own demise, my friend.
that's fucking fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's. I can't remember where we were. Oh, but yeah, no, adding. And yeah, the more specific your comedy can be very helpful. But at the same time, sometimes just focus and like keep it simple, stupid. Like sometimes I feel like we over rationalize or overthink the comedies to the point where
Or
it's
over
not funny.
detail it.
Yeah, because like there are times where like I have a punchline that is funny in 3 ways if you think about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, all 3 ways aren't that funny. But they're funny. Like combined, they're very funny. But like just if you look at them by itself and you don't know which audience member is going to get which punchline, but neither of them are that strong.
Yeah.
But like the joke needs to be smart and it needs to challenge this and it needs to do this. And it's not as funny as just being like, yeah, I jerk off with my dad. Like that's,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's where also one of those where like if either you're gonna have certain audience members unravel the 3 layers of it as they like and then and then or it gets 1 or 2, 1 or 2, 1 or 2, and then so you have a winning punchline because it has a multiplicity and it's
kind of just throwing shit at the wall and see if it sticks.
Yeah.
But with those jokes, you kind of have to wait longer too, because like sometimes you're
Well,
not going to get it at the
dramatic,
beginning.
One of them long Josh pauses just to like let them just marinate. Like, wait, there's more here. Like he's waiting for us now.
There's this one time that it was on Wednesday. It was a well-known comic. I think it was either Dallas or Aaron Orlovitz. I'm not sure which one. But they spent the first 2 minutes and 30 seconds of their set just standing, sitting, staring at him.
Yes.
Then at the end, he just told a single joke and then got off stage. And that joke killed. Now, granted, I think that's really only a bullet that you can shoot once. Like, I don't think that can be a regular act, but it is fun to play around with that because that challenges you so much just because you're uncomfortable. Because imagine, like, watching the person, that's awkward, but being the person being watched when everyone's just expectantly looking at you, like, what's going to happen, and the tension that builds, that can crush a person.
That was a goal I had when I I'd had it before because I knew it
I'm
was
sounding so pretentious during this too, which I got the chain and everything. Look at me.
You're fantastic. You're fantastically pretentious.
Yes, of course.
But so
as an artist,
well, this is where anyone that actually understands like any amount of performance. I've talked to Nami and Chuck about this, but those that can actually be comfortable with silence have an exceptional ability to hold stage presence if they can be comfortable with the silence.
Yeah.
And so, and this is where like one challenge that I had in my head to do eventually, but I kind of also want to respect the open mic is to go up and maximize that silence holding, like what you're talking about. That it sounded like Aaron did, and it's like if you can actually hold that silence while holding the audience's attention in the same, like by just your energy or something, like that is a sign of mastering holding the stage, and then he does one joke to like break the tension, and like they're waiting, they're ready for it. Like
I think maybe a better version of that, instead of just standing there, is
Yeah.
to maybe like notice something and you're like reacting to something and you're kind of like going through like almost do like a pantomime.
yeah, you're almost miming your way out.
Yeah, and like just so people at least, because no one hates wasted time, especially an audience, because they're like, okay, well, you know,
Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?
absolutely,
Yeah.
you know, because like especially like nowadays when the just the attention span is so short, you know,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
TikTok, you know, you're watching something like every fucking second, you need the constant stimulation. But with comedy, it's kind of gotten quicker, you know, and you kind of need it to get quicker because you just people. It's very hard to hold an audience's attention for that long. So maybe like this could be bullshit, but like just like a pantomime and kind of just like laughing with
Well, you're
everyone
like walking the
without
edges
actually
and,
saying
like, looking
it.
and checking things out, picking up people's glasses, putting them down or something. Like
Yeah,
there'd be
there's a way to do it for
yeah.
sure.
But I always just enjoy thinking like if I was gonna have a comic that was gonna ask me like, you know, me 2 weeks old, it's like what's something I could do? Is like, can you go up there and actually like be silent for your full 3 minutes? Can you actually do that without losing your medal, basically?
It's kind of like a game of chicken.
It is.
Like
It
who's
is.
gonna break
and,
first?
and if you can
Yeah.
do that, because even Joey Diaz talked about doing that, but he was given like a 15-minute challenge from like whatever road comic he was on. It's like go up there and don't say anything for like 10 minutes. Can you do that? You know, and that's where you were talking about the same pressure that goes on to the performer. That you're on stage and you
Yeah.
are saying nothing. How are you actually going to own that, but silently? Like, and that's
I'm hesitant to really talk about this and like say you should do this because I just don't want the next 2 weeks of open mics. I mean, if comics do listen to this, to just do that, because like that's gonna be good for one comic maybe.
oh yeah, exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
but if every comic is doing it, like, you know, the Bud Light joke when the Bud Light thing came out, or everyone making the billionaire submarine, where it's just like, okay, yeah. Or like after Chris Rock got slapped, comedy for the next 2 weeks was horrendous. Because
Yeah.
everyone was talking about it, and it was just like, no, just you don't have to be topical. Sometimes just talk about fucking donuts. I don't give a shit.
Right. Oh, Krispy Kreme donuts in Ireland are very different.
Good? In a good way?
Less sharp sweet.
Less
know-
sharps. Oh,
So
okay.
you know how the Krispy Kreme donuts
Do they still
like,
have the same like airiness?
kind
and
of?
crunch?
It's, the dough is a little bit different because Europe and Ireland have very different bread culture and very different
Yeah.
rules on what's allowed to be in food.
Okay.
Which is where I honestly think you could actually have you could have the regular amount of Krispy Kreme that you dream you want to have, but if you have it in Europe, you won't get fat. If you have it in America, you will get fat.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I have that sort of belief about it. Like I've had too many stories where lactose intolerant people in America go to Greece and they just go ham on dairy and it does nothing to them.
Yeah.
And then they come back here and they're right back to
Yeah, dude. There's
being
sugar in McDonald's.
oh yeah, no, I can
hamburger.
taste the sugar in the bun.
Yeah, in the bun,
Yeah.
bun, and also the meat.
Yeah, no, fuck that.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
no, it's
crazy.
insane.
Why are you putting sugar in bread, dude? And then meats? That's no.
Yeah,
Bad
no.
times. Bad
but
times.
but yeah, no, that's one of those challenges that I'd give a performer is that like if you and I understand your concern for the topicality and it just like kind of running through if these episodes somehow run out into the wild,
Yeah.
but it's like
I
also
can't imagine Trey Lambs listening to this. He's like, what does Spencer think about this? But,
right. That's okay. This is the PSA. If you see one of the comics do it that night, it's not your night to do it.
yeah. No, do it once. Do it once. It's like don't just one comic can use it that night and then just allow them to get banned.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to bleep that probably.
I'll have to remember to do that.
Yeah,
Honestly,
thank you. Well, do you not listen to these and like edit them?
I can.
Yeah.
I may.
Because that's.
Would you
I
like
mean,
me
when
to
I
bleep
was,
that for you?
Well, like no, when I was do it just for the
for the bit.
do it for the bit, and also just do it so no one knows what I actually said. So they don't know if
Yeah,
I said
yeah,
the
yeah.
N-word or
Yeah,
if they
yeah.
said any of the other slurs.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I like the mystery of it. Yeah, do
Yeah.
that. I'm gonna laugh if you forget to, and then we just
Time
talked
are we
about
at?
it.
153.
153.
Yeah.
Oh, not bad.
Cool.
Oh, we had a. Oh yeah, we had a pretty long break too.
Now we're chill.
Sweet.
We can actually get ourselves going. You got some Batman to go watch, right?
Oh yeah, what time is it?
You've seen them all before, right?
Oh yeah, of
You're
course.
just having a movie day.
No, so Cole Robeson was just like, "Hey guys, they're doing a." Do you
Is
know
your
how?
Cole Robeson impression?
Yeah.
Should I? I should
Hey
be able to
guys,
Oh God.
we what was it? It's like, hey guys, they're doing a triple feature of the Nolan trilogy with Batman at 3:30. Tickets are $9. If you guys would like to come, let's go. Then Chuck was just like, can I masturbate in that one? You know, because that's Chuck Fury.
Chuck's.
Hello, friends. My name is Chuck Fury.
I like to do penis and shock jokes all the time.
I smoked a little bit of weed and a lot of PCP and ran down the street with the sock of my cock yelling, it's dancing time. I can do that man's bit. One of these days, I want him to do my jokes and I'll do his.
Oh, that'd be great.
And just
Did
to
you
kind
and
of
him
see
do
what
a
goes.
roast of each other?
Yeah, dude, that was fun.
you
I
told me about
loved that roast. We had, like, it was just.
Because you and him seem like pretty close.
Oh, yeah, no,
Friends and
he's
stuff.
probably the comic that I'm closest with.
Yeah, because you guys do a lot of, I'll call it, I don't have a better word, but you guys do a lot of defending of each other in a way. Like not
Really?
not defending like you guys do, one guy does a bad thing and one guy does a bad thing, and you're defending like bad actions. It's much more of like when having Chuck here for the podcast and talking off camera and stuff, like there's a lot of points where it's like, no, he really cares about you. Like it's very self-evident.
Were you like asking him about me as like how do
Well,
I
I was
handle
letting
this
him know
person?
about like what I told you last night, that like you and Nami were like the two white whales of just like the most intimidating persons.
That's so funny to me. What? Why?
It's so you know the pedestal thing I was talking about?
Yeah.
It's a theory that I have. So if you don't actually meet someone soon enough, like I think about this with girls. So
Yeah.
if you see a cutie, okay, they're on your radar, or someone in general, someone's gotten your attention. I learned this actually from like a fucking dating site thing called the Tao of Badass.
Okay.
But
Yeah, we're
someone's
going
someone's on your radar.
Mhm.
It is probably in your best interest to go up and talk to them as like immediately. Otherwise, at least especially from my brain is, you'll start to add layers of complexity that will
Yeah.
either stop you from going to talk to them,
Mhm.
or if you don't actually, in my case, if I don't humanize them effectively as soon as I can, then I'm gonna I could have this complex sort of build out, especially since I'm only seeing you when you're hosting,
Okay.
and so you're not good for conversation then, so to speak.
Yeah, and
I could roll
usually
through-
in the middle of something.
Yeah.
Especially at that mic.
yeah.
I've bit some people's heads off, unfortunately, recently.
Right. And then for Nami, for example, like I couldn't read him. Like I actually had to find out on the podcast that he's actually straight. I totally.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I missed it entirely.
Oh God!
I think
Did you mention this? Is like I don't know. Like maybe you could speak to your experience. You know, as a gay man, he's just like, I'm not gay.
That's not even what the pitch was.
I'm
Like,
sure it wasn't.
But like he's like, no, I love women. And I was like, and then somewhere in my brain, I was like, I think he said that on stage, and it just blacked out from my memory or something like that.
or
But
you were
Nami-
just like thought it was funny. It's like when because Nick Lucero's mentioned that he's bi on
Yeah,
stage
yeah.
a few times, and it never actually clicked that
It never
he was.
sticks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
he's
just
too
like,
like-
oh, that's just
like-
Nick Lucero, just doing Nick Lucero shit.
But Nick hasn't even like, he might remember me. I was like, yeah, Nick's too ugly to like look gay. Like
What? Okay. What about Scott?
Scott.
Yeah, he's
oh,
gay.
Fillmore?
He is the gayest man
He
alive.
Scott Fillmore looks gay with how he carries himself
Really?
and stuff. Yeah. Well,
No,
especially
I-
that haircut, that short.
The new haircut with the
Yeah.
mustache.
That makes him look like he's
when I first met
stylish.
him, he had like long,
Yes, I remember
long
that.
hair.
I remember his much
You
longer
know,
hair. Yeah.
he looked majestic.
Yeah. No. But yeah, no. That's and like with Nami, with like how he is on stage,
Yeah.
and also kind of and the company he keeps, just those contexts give me intimidating
Yeah.
factors, because I don't want to be offensive, but I also am not regularly a part of like those kind of more, we'll just call it like rainbow communities.
Rainbow community. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. No, there's a
Like-
lot of them at Alliance. It's the most unsafe safe space I've ever seen in my life. Like with the comedy, like the type of shit you're gonna be like hearing, like even
Mhm.
like if it's like well done, and
Yeah.
some of it's not well done, but like just like that type of comedy, just I've never seen those types of people to like just sit through that. It's really cool to see.
Well,
And
it's
I love it
really-
when the comics stay for the music too, because it's really just like two completely different cultures combining and kind of learning like,
Like
oh yeah, we're
holding
really not
hands,
that. Yeah,
actually.
it's like it's like it sounds woo woo, but it's like, yeah, kumbaya. Like, oh, look at us. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
sure, these degenerate alcoholics that are, there's a
Trying
lot
to
of
make
shit.
dick jokes out.
Yeah,
here.
and they're like, yeah, what's up, boy? Like that type of stuff. Granted, no one sounds like that except like maybe Ben Corrigan doing an impression. But that's sometimes the vibe, though.
Well,
sometimes they say that without saying that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well,
There's something gregariously like unapologetic about comics,
yeah.
and
Well,
then you get to the sensitivity of like poetry and like music,
Oh yeah.
and it's like you guys like that group has to figure out how to like hold hands more or less, you know?
Yeah, and at least not fight, because like that's
Yeah.
happened at times, especially with the comics. Like, because with us being in like the circuit,
Mhm.
like you then go to Ice House afterwards. So like comics would just leave, and I would
yeah,
always
yeah,
excuse like, yeah, no, like they leave, they have to go go to another mic, and now it's the same thing with Buck's mic, the one in About Time.
Yeah,
I think. I haven't been to that one just because
Well, you have to run the rest of the other mics,
Yeah.
so you're out of time. Before
Yeah, it's interesting being a host of like a comedy open mic and also a music open mic and having to switch sides. And honestly, I play around more on the music side because with comedy, I'm just trying to keep it going. Like I might like put in one line. Afterwards,
as a host or whatnot.
Yeah, just like the little riff.
Yeah.
Like
Just a
when Oz
bridge
is like
between,
that man
a
looks
bomb
like,
and, like, someone else,
yeah. Sometimes if they bomb, I'll do some time just to
reset the room.
reactivate them.
Yeah.
Because
You're
sometimes
the palate
those
cleanser.
I try to be, which is I do not have the vibe of a palate cleanser. It's just like I'm telling the Mexicans stole Republicans' jobs or the abortion like material. It's just like let me piss everyone off and then go back into my little hidey hole where I make reactions to what's going on stage.
Yes. Which I think I just appreciate that in general. It's like Spencer's just gonna be a wild card here. Like it's, he's got to have fun somehow.
Yeah, it's the host shouldn't be the wild card, but yet here I am. But there's been times where like Nami last week he actually did music and original shit
in the music hour.
And he was doing music and he did 2 songs and they were very honest, very genuine, like honestly pretty good songs. I was like, so he gets off stage. I was like, "Hey Nami, did you write that?" He's just like, "Yeah." I was like, "Fuck you." Fuck you for that shit. Honestly, how dare you be like incredibly funny, incredibly talented, and then just say the most like heart-bearing, wrenching, honest, genuine shit? Do you know how long I have like played guitar at the end of like the open mics every once in a while because it's kind of like a tradition where we sing Beggar's Song and it's all singing together, and I love it. But like never in a million years have I been like, you know what, I should write a song, because like I just that part of me is not well fed. Yeah. And maybe down the line it could be, but like I'm not in a place where I should like be writing music.
You're just bearing your jealousy out there.
No, it was absolutely jealousy, but like it's out of respect too.
It's jealousy with admiration.
Yeah, it's not like absolutely like fuck that guy. Absolutely. I'm not actually mad at him. I just wanted to like. I was honestly.
You got to roast him for respect. You're roasting him because you respect him, basically.
It's a roast because of. I guess it was trying to validate him, being like, "Holy hell, you're this and this and this," and I was able to give him so many compliments, and in a way that maybe didn't make me look incredible, but it gave that man so many compliments, and it helped the show because we could all just be like, "Yeah, no, that was awesome," and we could kind of appreciate how cool that was to see.
Do you know what Nami's other superpower talent is?
He's got a lot.
It's
pure sex appeal.
It's apparently obviously.
It's pure raw sex appeal.
No, it's apparently fighting games.
Oh, really? Dude, that makes so much sense. That man fucks with Tekken.
Yeah, no, he fucks hard with Tekken, but also like
he fucks with the music too. With it on, I'm sure. I mean, the beats per minute are a little odd, but
it feels like it feels like a content opportunity. You could fight the Brazilian fighters or whatnot in the other room, and
the thing is, they did jujitsu, which is Brazilian, which is incredible. We're back to capoeira. Brazilian thing, capoeira, but jujitsu is like one of the best martial arts you could ever know. Like it is the most useful in real life.
It's the one I actually want to go into.
Yeah,
never really,
because like Taekwondo, is good with the kicking. Kempo is good for like close hand. Like Muay Thai is some of the best striking.
Is probably the best thing to prepare you for like a bar fight, like the most likely fight.
Yeah, like if it goes to the ground, you're gonna be fine, and it's the most useful if you are smaller as well, because like size really doesn't matter as much in jiu-jitsu. I mean, granted, sometimes the tall guy can just stand up. Which I saw that happen in an MMA fight a few nights ago. This guy had him in like almost in an arm bar, and the guy was like kicking his ass, and all of a sudden the guy that was in it just starts like. Boom! Like it
drops him.
Yeah, I was like, "Well done, King. Well done."
Alrighty.
No notes, my friend. No notes.
All right. Thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Oh, of course. Thank you for the invite. I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully, you now understand that I am just a piece of shit like everyone else. And I am not worthy of that pedestal.
No,
that was my main goal.
I'm aware the pedestal is much more me than it's actually whoever.
I was not worthy of that pedestal. It's interesting how some of the newer guys act like I'm a comic. I'm like, dude, no.
We naturally look for hierarchies. We naturally look for where our place is in the hierarchy.
And sometimes it's enjoyable to be in that hierarchy as the host, but it's also completely unwarranted and undeserved. I mean, the mic is fun, but it's kind of made its own. Has its own identity outside of me at this point.
Yeah.
And yeah, it could definitely run without me. And sometimes I'm just a dick. So
Checks out.
yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
And we're gonna get on out of here. Thank
All
you,
right,
sir.
have a good night, people.
Do you have anything you wanted to plug? This might come out in the next 2 weeks, I think.
2 weeks. Honestly, come out to the Alliance mic on Mondays, 7:30. It's great comedy, great music, and the host is an absolute asshole.
An adorable asshole, but
yeah, we try to be.
Yeah.
Try to be.
Alrighty, boys. We're going on out of here. Thank you for your time.
Peace.